Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. When my archer talent is maxed out, I will kill all races. Chapter 41. He actually learned the three-ring moon arrow. Ignoring Wei Yun's noise, Shang Han was shocked. No one knows that the three-ring moon arrow is an archery created by Zhang Zesheng. The three-ring moon arrow has been kept in the army for decades. After decades, no one in the army has ever learned it. What he didn't expect was that Chen Qi actually got this archery skill and successfully learned it. According to what Zhang Zesheng once said, the three-ring moon arrow has high requirements on the archer's talent. It is impossible to learn below S level. This is also a test for him to stay in the army. Suppressing the surprise in his heart, Shang Han raised his eyes and looked at Chen Qi in the picture in front of him and fell into deep thought. Chen Qi, old Zhang. When there was still 1 kilometer away from where Chen Qi and the two were, Su Xingyuan jumped onto the roof of a private building. Holding the spear in his hand at an angle, his eyes scanned the surroundings sharply. The surroundings were silent, and Su Xingyuan's heart sank, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Seeing no one answered, Xuanyan, Zhao Juxin, Wang Er and others also had a bad feeling in their hearts. Sao, nothing will happen to me. Chen Qi, Zhang Ruya, please don't let anything happen to you too. My brother Chen won't just burp like this, I still want him to be the captain. Close it, hurry up. Everyone was like lightning and rushed towards the location where Chen Qi and the two were. The 4 veterans in the team also looked very serious at this moment. The 2 new recruits are gone, right? It's hard to say, there is no movement around, but 2 people dare to follow the traces of strange beasts. I have to say that this decision is really stupid. The blood will teach them. The few people stopped talking and followed the team towards where Chen Qi and the others were. Bang! Su Xingyuan jumped up, jumping more than 20 meters, and then landed heavily on the ground, with a deep pit appearing under his feet. He looked up and saw the corpses of strange beasts scattered in front of him. Stone-skinned rhinoceros, ghost wolf, winged saber leopard. His eyes were like lightning, and Su Xingyuan's body was filled with wisps of lightning. Team leader, I am Sao. Xuanyan and others arrived, looked at the corpse of the alien beast in front of them, and exclaimed. In front of him, there were 8 corpses of strange beasts with many scars on their bodies, and a silver arrow stuck in their bodies. The 4 veterans were not slow. They looked around and saw that the battlefield was extremely messy. Houses collapsed and blood was everywhere. But Chen Qi and the 2 were nowhere to be seen. Look for it. Su Xingyuan was anxious at the moment. Although he had confidence in Chen Qi, that was only before. 6 warriors at the 5th level, and even 2 strange beasts at the 6th level. Chen Qi and Zhang Ruya had no chance of winning against such a force. Don't let anything happen to you too. In the message Zhang Ruya sent him, she did not say the specific number of the alien beasts, but only said that traces of the alien beasts had been found. The 4 of them checked out the strange beasts on the battlefield. The 5th level of warriors, and there are 2 warriors at the 6th level. The 4 of them exchanged glances, looking at the silver arrows embedded in the alien beasts, their eyes full of shock. What a strong archer! The 4 of them sighed in unison. There are many talented archers in the army, but no archer has ever had such a strong dominance as Chen Qi. All 4 of them are veterans and are very familiar with strange beasts. No matter how strong the E-level talent is, his strength is at the 3rd level of a warrior. 7 of the 8 strange beasts were pierced by arrows. The 4 of them had come to a conclusion in a matter of seconds. And this conclusion made them feel unbelievable. Chen Qi is not that combat support character. Zhang Ruya is the one. The 4 of them looked confused. Is this still the archer they knew? As far as they knew, archers had never seemed to have such a powerful ability to dominate. There must be another team taking action, otherwise the 2 of them are definitely no match for these strange beasts. After the words fell, the 4 of them fell silent. The arrows on the strange beast in front of you cannot be fake. The team dispersed, looking for Chen Qi and the 2 of them. At this moment, Chen Qi and Zhang Ruya were hiding more than 900 meters away from Su Xingyuan and the others. In his hand, there are a total of 8 alien beast crystal nuclei. Old Zhang. Throwing 4 alien beast crystal cores to Zhang Ruya, Chen Qi closed his eyes and began to absorb the alien beast crystal cores in his hand. Today, although he is very talented, he does not have enough resources. If you want to practice cultivation, you can only get more cultivation resources. The battlefield is a perfect place. Zhang Ruya looked at Chen Qi with a complicated expression, her eyes full of surprise. In the previous battle, his only role was to attract the attention of the alien beasts. And Chen Kikai was the one who attacked. The two of them were originally Zhang Ruya, the A-level strength enhanced target, as the main target, while Chen Qi was there as a combat auxiliary. But as soon as the battlefield began, the roles of the two were reversed. Shaking his head, in Zhang Ruya's eyes, Chen Qi had been labeled a pervert by him. With the SSS talent, Chen Qi can absorb the alien beast crystal core much faster than Zhang Ruya. In a short period of time, an alien beast crystal core has been absorbed. He did not open his eyes, but put the second alien beast crystal core into his mouth. The unique stench of the alien beast crystal core filled the air, and Chen Qi looked indifferent. He was used to this smell. The 6th level of Warrior Realm. HP 130, Strength 3500, 4000, Speed 45 per second. The crystal nuclei of the alien beasts are constantly being absorbed, and the energy and blood are constantly boiling. If you want to break through to the 7th level of Warrior Realm, you need 160 points. Now he is not too far away from the 7th level of Warrior. After absorbing the 4 alien beast crystal cores in your hand, your energy and blood should increase by 15 points. Warriors need too many resources to break through. The higher the talent, the more resources are needed. The combat power he unleashed far surpassed those of the same realm. After a while, Chen Qi opened his eyes. All 4 alien beast crystal cores have been absorbed. And his blood has reached 150 points. Chen Qi, Xingyuan and the others are already here. Zhang Ruya's voice sounded. Walk. The two of them didn't say much, and their figures disappeared instantly. Chen Qi, Ruya. As soon as the two figures appeared, Su Xingyuan and others discovered them. Everyone screamed in surprise and rushed towards the two of them. Are you okay? Su Xingyuan looked at the two people in front of him and asked anxiously. It's okay. Zhang Ruya glanced at Chen Qi beside her and shook her head with a smile. As long as it's okay, it'll be okay. Su Xingyuan nodded. In the team, Wang Xuanyan and others saw that Chen Qi and the others were fine, and they couldn't help but feel relieved. Did you two kill those 8 strange beasts? A voice sounded. A veteran looked at Chen Qi and asked curiously. After the words fell, everyone's eyes fell on Chen Qi and the two of them. The two of them killed 8 strange beasts. Such a record was simply terrifying. Chen Qi and the two were stunned. Zhang Ruya turned to look at Chen Qi, and then asked hesitantly, what's the problem? Wu Kao, Zhang Ruya, what nonsense are you talking about? There's a problem, it's a big problem. Xuanyan held it in for a long time, and now he couldn't hold it in any longer. Seeing the confusion on Zhang Ruya's face and the calm expression on Chen Qi, he couldn't help but complain. This is a group of strange beasts from the 5th level of warriors, and there are even 2 from the 6th level of warriors. 2 people, just 2 people. Xuanyan stretched out 2 fingers and said excitedly, do you know what this means? This means that what you are doing is unprecedented even among veterans. Even the entire Third Army has a record that has never been achieved before. Xuanyan salivated and his face was full of excitement. Su Xingyuan and others were also shocked at this moment. Su Xingyuan thought for a while, looked at Chen Qi and the two, and a terrible thought flashed through his mind. His eyes fell on Chen Qi, and he asked in surprise, Chen Qi, how old are you as a warrior? Chen Qi did not hide it and replied with a smile, 6th level. Su Xingyuan's expression froze, his resentful eyes fell on Chen Qi, he stood sideways and stopped talking. What's wrong, Captain? Zhao Juxin followed Su Xingyuan's gaze, but he didn't find anything, so he asked Wang beside him doubtfully. Don't worry about him, he's just showing off. Wang glanced at Su Xingyuan, said to Zhao Juxin with a smile, and then sighed, 6th level. You have already reached the 6th level of a warrior in just 1 month. Is this the terrifying thing about E-level talent? Zhao Juxin grinned and didn't know how to answer the question for a moment. The 4 veterans looked complicated at this moment, and their hearts were full of bitterness. They were still thinking about Chen Qi and the two of them not knowing whether to live or die. But in the next second, they slapped several of their faces. One warrior was at the 6th level, the other was at the 5th level, and the two of them killed 8 strange beasts. The most important thing is that Chen Qi, with his E-level archer talent, can practice faster than everyone present. Even Su Xingyuan, who has an A-level thunder talent, is not as talented as Chen Qi, an E-level archer. Where's the Shadow Fox? Why didn't you see the corpse of Shadow Fox? Everyone later realized that the crystal nuclei of the 8 alien beasts in front of them had been taken away by Chen Qi and the others, leaving only 8 huge corpses here. Wang Er, Xuanyan and others suddenly discovered that there was no trace of the Shadow Fox in front of them. Escaped. Chen Qi glanced around and said regretfully. Shadow Fox's IQ is not low, and he had already escaped quietly when the battle started. At that time, Chen Qi and Zhang Ria were busy dealing with 8 strange beasts, and there was no time to leave the Shadow Fox behind. What a pity. Wang Er shook his head slightly. Captain, our next step should be. Just as Wang Er finished speaking, a neighing sound sounded from above everyone's heads. Looking up, a wind eagle about 5 meters long with deep blue-black feathers was hovering above everyone's heads. Windok. Chen Qi's eyes narrowed slightly, and with the help of the eagle's insight, he could even see Feng Ying's pair of light blue eyes with a cold light. A cluster of silver-white feathers on the top of the head. The broad wings spread out like 2 huge sharp blades. The claws, which are as strong as alloys, emit a chilling light. After hearing Chen Qi's words, everyone in the team tensed up. Wind Eagle is extremely fast, comparable to the first level of martial arts. He can also control the wind blade, which is extremely terrifying. Windoks are best at scouting. Because of its height, it is far beyond the attack distance of ordinary warriors, and it can fly silently. It is becoming increasingly difficult to find. Why is there a wind eagle here? Su Xingyuan looked up at the wind eagle flying into the distance, doubts flashing in his eyes. Chen Qi's eyes flashed with confusion, and he said in a deep voice, "Reconnaissance." What? Everyone was puzzled. Feng Ying is here for reconnaissance. Chen Qi looked up at Feng Ying, who was gradually retreating, and said, "The Shadow Fox has a very high IQ and is best at tricks. This wind eagle is most likely sent by Shadow Fox for reconnaissance. Catch it." After Chen Qi finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. Su Xingyuan and others also reacted quickly. The moment Chen Qi disappeared, his figure suddenly started to move. Chen Qi, who had reached the 6th level of warrior realm, did not choose to wait for Su Xingyuan and others to ride Juchen. Wearing a black armor, a hood covered Chen Qi's face, and his amber eyes were full of coldness. The black alloy longbow was held in his hand, and the silver gun at his waist was put away, turning into a silver iron rod. Wind Eagle was very fast, and Chen Qi struggled to catch up. Somewhere 5 kilometers away, the figure of the Shadow Fox appears here. In front of it, 5 figures stood in front of it. When the Shadow Fox saw the 5 figures, his expression was respectful, his forelimbs were on the ground, his head was lowered, and he let out a low whimper. 2 people can kill 8 strange beasts at the 5th and 6th levels of warriors. The leader's voice was indifferent, with a hint of surprise in his tone. A slight smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Maybe we encountered a big fish. Hearing this, the other 4 figures showed excitement in their eyes. Another person licked the corner of his mouth and said with a hint of madness, "Kill them." The leader did not speak, but looked up at the sky, where a blue-black figure was coming towards a few people at an extremely fast speed. The bait is on. Lure further to the shore to prevent being discovered by fish farmers. The man's calm voice fell. The Shadow Fox raised its lowered head slightly and let out a strange cry. There were figures all around heading in different directions. Those were strange beasts that were at least at the 3rd level of a warrior, and among them there were many strange beasts that were at the 5th, even 6th, or 7th level of a warrior. The figure of Feng Ying has disappeared. Chen Qi did not stop and continued to move forward. And as I continued to move forward, I felt an inexplicable feeling of uneasiness in my heart. Amber eyes glanced around. Chen Qi squinted his eyes, and quietly placed a silver arrow on the string of the black alloy longbow in his hand. Buzz! A ray of silver light disappeared in the blink of an eye, instantly piercing through a 2nd-level warrior beast. The powerful force flew out with the corpse of the alien beast, and was eventually nailed to the wall of an abandoned house. The knock of the arrow trembled. Chen Qi stopped and raised his eyes to scan his surroundings. There was a bad feeling in my heart. Beep. A sharp cry suddenly sounded from the distant sky. Looking around, the wind eagle that had disappeared appeared again. His light blue eyes were cold. Chen Qi squinted his eyes and looked at the figure of Feng Ying flying into the distance. A cold look flashed in his eyes. The wind hawk disappeared and reappeared, together with the strange beast that he had just shot. Various manifestations told him that Feng Ying was deliberately tempting him to follow. Do you want to follow? Chen Qi was thinking. And when he was thinking, it was also the northwest direction. Zhang En, Li Ji and others also discovered Feng Ying's figure. Chase. Li Ji gave the order to pursue without any hesitation. Zhang En hesitated for a moment but did not object. The crowd chased Feng Ying in the direction he left. Chen Qi. Hearing the voices of Su Xingyuan and others, Chen Qi turned around and waved to everyone. Chen Qi, are you okay? Zhang Ruya, Su Xingyuan and others came to Chen Qi and looked around. Except for a second-level warrior beast, they found nothing else. Listening to everyone's concerned greetings, Chen Qi smiled and shook his head. Then he raised his hand and pointed into the distance. After catching up to here, the wind eagle disappeared. After hearing this, everyone sighed that the speed of the wind eagle was too fast. Several people had expected this result. Forget it, Feng Ying is known for its speed, so it's normal that he can't catch up. Su Xingyuan shook his head and said comfortingly. Zhang Ruya patted Chen Qi's shoulder. Listening to Chen Qi's words, the 4 veterans in the team smiled and shook their heads. Even if Chen Qi's strength has reached the 6th level of warrior, he is still far from catching up with Feng Ying. If you want to catch up with Wind Eagle, you must at least have the strength of the 8th level warrior, or the awakened talent as the wind element. Before anyone could speak, a sharp cry sounded. Everyone looked up and saw Feng Ying's figure appearing again. Chen Qi's voice sounded. No need to chase it, it will appear by itself. What do you mean? Zhang Ruya was stunned, her eyes full of confusion. Chen Qi looked at the wind eagle spreading its wings slowly in the distant sky, and raised the corner of his mouth slightly. It is waiting for us on purpose. After speaking, he glanced at everyone. Their team is rather strange. Captain Su Xingyuan has an A-level thunder talent. Normally, everything must be based on the captain's orders. As for Chen Qi's head-on defeat of A-level talent Zhang En in the first recruit competition assessment, and his defeat of S-level wind elemental Li Ji in the ring, Chen Qi's position in everyone's hearts has quietly changed. Su Xingyuan is the captain, and Chen Qi is regarded as the vice-captain by everyone. Moreover, the deputy captain's words are more useful than Su Xingyuan's at certain times. The wind hawk disappears and reappears, luring us over. Having said this, Chen Qi raised his head and glanced at Feng Ying, then turned his gaze back to Su Xingyuan. Captain, are you chasing me? Su Xingyuan pondered for a moment. Chase. Suburban location of Linggu County. 50 figures passed by like a whirlwind, adding a different kind of vitality to this county town that had been silent for 100 years. Su Xingyuan held the spear in his hand and was extremely fast. Zhang Ruya holds an alloy sledgehammer in her hand, and her whole person exudes a strong aura. The same is true for Wang Er, Xuanyan and others. The black alloy longbow was held in his hand, and the battle armor covered his entire body. Under the black hood, Chen Qi looked mysterious. The figure of the wind hawk was still flying towards the distance. Not fast. This is just like teasing us. Zhao Juxin raised his head and looked at the wind eagle in the sky in the distance. The broad wings flap gently, as fast as an arrow leaving the string. The blue-black feathers look sharp. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. When did Feng Ying have such a high IQ? Xuanyan complained, with doubts in his tone. Chen Qi, you. Su Xingyuan was about to speak. At this moment, Chen Qi had quietly opened the black alloy long bow in his hand. On the bowstring, the arrowheads of 3 silver arrows shone with cold light. The qi and blood in the body are boiling, and the bowstring is like a full moon. The arrow was like lightning and disappeared on the bowstring instantly, making a sharp sound of breaking through the air. And its target is the wind eagle in the distance. Chen Qi's sudden movement made everyone stunned. Why should I kill Feng Ying now after chasing him for so long? Are you sure you can hit the wind eagle at such a fast speed? Looking up, 3 rays of silver light were like lightning, arriving in an instant. Although the Wind Eagle's huge body is in the air, its speed is not slow at all. At the moment when the sound broke through the air, his light blue eyes moved slightly and he dodged the arrow in an instant. But before it could think about it, the other two silver lights collided together instantly. Under the collision, the speed of the second silver light suddenly increased greatly. As if the trajectory of Wind Eagle's flash had been predicted, the direction of the second silver light was exactly where Wind Eagle was dodging. And its target is exactly the throat of Feng Ying. Bah! There was a sharp neighing sound, and then the huge figure continued to fall to the ground. Kill the Wind Hawk with one arrow. The sudden change shocked everyone present. Chen Qi, you. Su Xingyuan was about to speak when Chen Qi interrupted. There are strange beasts coming, and there are quite a lot of them. How far? Su Xingyuan raised his eyebrows and asked. 1 kilometer. How far? In the team, even members of the original Wolong team such as Wang Er could not help but be stunned. Among them, the 4 veterans who joined the team this time were the most shocked. When a veteran heard the distance mentioned by Chen Qi, he couldn't help but exclaimed and looked at Chen Qi in disbelief. Everyone in the team also looked at Chen Qi in shock. Their current vision is no more than 300 meters at most. But Chen Qi could only open his mouth a kilometer away. Are you talking too much? Chen Qi turned to look at the veteran who questioned him, his amber eyes looked a little strange, and his calm voice sounded. What do you think is wrong with 1 kilometer? 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer. Several veterans laughed at the words, 1 kilometer. Their current strength is at the 7th level of warrior realm, and they are considered the strongest in the entire team. But the distance they could see clearly was only more than 300 meters. Is 1 kilometer possible? Su Xingyuan looked serious, glanced at everyone, and said in a deep voice, believe him. Chen Qi, as always, you act alone. Chen Qi nodded and disappeared instantly. Although he is good at spear martial arts, it is not his strong point after all. Unless necessary, he prefers to use the longbow as an attack method. Everyone, be prepared. Su Xingyuan's eyes flashed with lightning, and the spear in his hand flashed with lightning. There was a hint of indescribable majesty in his voice. At this moment, his thunder talent has been mobilized. The fighting spirit gradually rose in the rest of the people. The abilities of alien beasts are all kinds of strange. The amplification talent can increase everyone's abilities. The healing talent requires you to pay attention to injuries at all times. Defense talent, strength talent to withstand. After speaking, the thunder in his body gradually became manic, and his voice gradually became louder. Live or die. As soon as the words fell, everyone in the team suddenly felt an indomitable momentum. And this momentum gradually gathered, eventually forming a strong fighting spirit. 49 figures stood upright, holding sharp blades, and fighting spirit filled the chests of everyone. Waiting for the strange beast to appear. Boom. Finally, the ground shook. At least hundreds of strange beasts appeared. Earth-splitting elephants, stone-skinned rhinoceros, winged saber leopards, and various other strange beasts rushed towards Su Xingyuan and others like a tide. Su Xingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly, thunder burst out from the tip of the spear, and deep pits appeared on the ground. Zhang Ruya has a strong body, and when her strength enhancement talent is activated, her entire figure increases dramatically. At a glance, she looks like a small giant. Kill. Although there are many enemies, I will go on. Alien beasts are coming like a tidal wave. 49 figures stood proudly in front, the sharp blades in their hands flashing with cold light. At the forefront of the crowd, Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya were like 2 unshakable mountain peaks. The spear in Su Xingyuan's hand was wrapped in thunder, and wisps of thunder shot out, like the roar of a thunder dragon. Zhang Ruya's figure skyrocketed, and her majestic figure of 2 meters high cast a huge shadow in the sun. Although the alloy sledgehammer in his hand did not flicker with cold light, it seemed to condense an invisible force, filling his whole body with a feeling that could not be underestimated, of domineering. The two of them stood proudly in front, while everyone else stood behind them. Looking at the strange beast charging towards him and the others, Su Xingyuan's eyes were filled with indifference. He suddenly grasped the spear in his hand, and a voice full of murderous intent burst out, kill. As soon as the words fell, the whole person disappeared in an instant, the spear roared like a thunder dragon, and a bolt of thunder struck at the alien beast at the front. Kill. Zhang Ruya roared, her extremely strong body not feeling bloated at all, her legs bent slightly, and then she suddenly jumped up, and hit a stone-skinned rhino with the alloy sledgehammer in her hand. Kill. The increase was completed, and the remaining people shouted loudly, and followed the two people and rushed towards the strange beast. The amber eyes looked unusually calm, and the black armor covered his body. Chen Qi's position was on the right side of the battlefield. The body stood upright, and the somewhat indifferent eyes moved slightly. In his hand, the black alloy longbow was pulled open, and the arrowhead of the silver arrow shone coldly in the sun, like a poisonous snake. When Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya and others had just moved, the arrows had already appeared on the bowstring. The moment the two sides were about to come into contact, the bowstring trembled. A sharp sound breaking through the air suddenly sounded, like a poisonous snake spitting a message, which made people's scalp numb when they heard it. 49 people rushed towards hundreds of strange beasts without retreating. The distance between the two sides is rapidly closing. The one at the forefront of the alien beasts is the huge earth-splitter elephant. The earth-shattering elephant, weighing dozens of tons, ran and the earth shook. With such a tonnage and the galloping speed of the earth-splitting elephant, once it rushes into the crowd, the consequences will be disastrous. Su Xingyuan did not stop, his eyes fixed on the strange beast in front of him. With the spear in hand, move forward indomitably. The speed of both sides was extremely fast, and they were about to collide in a few breaths. In the team, some people looked at Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya, Wang Er and others who were not avoiding them at all, and their pupils shrank. The four veterans' eyes widened as an idea flashed through their minds. These new recruits are desperate. Just when they wanted to speak to stop everyone's movement, a sharp sound broke through the air suddenly. The silver light was like electricity, grazing the bodies of several people and spinning forward rapidly. This is. Several people were slightly stunned, and then the figure who left the team and acted alone appeared in their minds. Whoosh! Silver arrows flew between Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan. When Zhang Ruya saw the arrow flying past her, she shouted excitedly, "Chen Qi!" As soon as he finished speaking, the arrow with a powerful whirling force instantly shot into the eyes of the earth-split elephant and passed out from the back of the head. The earth-splitting elephant, which was running at full speed, wailed when an arrow penetrated its head, but its running movement did not stop. The huge inertia pushed its huge body to rush out more than 10 meters before falling to the ground. The alien beasts following the earth-splitter elephant collided with each other the moment the earth-splitter elephant fell to the ground. Among the alien beasts, extremely fast alien beasts such as the wind saber dodged the moment the earth-splitting elephant fell to the ground and rushed towards Su Xingyuan and others. The chaotic team of alien beasts collided with each other, and a strange cry sounded. When the chaotic team of alien beasts heard the strange cry, they seemed to have gained intelligence and started to avoid the fallen earth-splitting elephant. The two sides are about to collide, and either you die or I die. The thunder on Su Xingyuan's spear flashed brightly, like the god of thunder coming to the world. At this moment, 3 silver arrows flashed past like streams of light, grazing the bodies of Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan before flying out again. The speed was a bit faster than Su Xingyuan and the other two. This also resulted in that before Su Xingyuan's attack landed, 3 arrows had already hit the wind saber that was charging towards everyone. Clang! Puff! There was nothing in the air, but the arrows were flying with fire, their speed did not slow down, and they directly penetrated the heads of the 3 wind sabers. Thunder falls. Boom! Thunder light burst out, and the spear swept out. Several strange beasts were instantly swept away by the spear several meters away, knocking down the wall and causing dust to fly everywhere. Zhang Ruya roared, and the alloy sledgehammer in her hand seemed to have a force of 10,000 pounds, and she knocked the 2 strange beasts to the ground. With a bang, their heads suddenly exploded, and their brains splattered everywhere. 49 figures collided with hundreds of strange beasts in the blink of an eye. Zhao Juxin's face was full of excitement, and he slashed out the sword in his hand, flying away a second-level warrior beast, leaving a long wound on its body. Cool, so cool. This is the first time that Zhao Juxin and Chen Qi are on the same team. 49 people. 49 people dared to confront hundreds of strange beasts head-on. The confidence that supports their team in making such a decision is the E-level talent that is outside the battlefield but firmly controls the entire battlefield, Archer Chen Qi. The 4 veterans in the team were stunned when they looked at the situation in front of them. He waved the sword in his hand and raised his eyes to look forward. In the chaotic battlefield, strange beasts roared, as well as the power of thunder, or earth walls made of earth elements, or blazing flames rising. But none of this can compare to the silver arrows intertwined in the battlefield. They are not rookies who have just joined the army and have experienced several battles. When this battle began, they never thought it would be like this. In front of me, the alien beast roared, the battlefield was chaotic, the sword flashed, and the alien beast's claws flashed with a cold light. If you are not careful, you will completely lose your life. But in the battlefield, Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya, Wang Er, Zhao Juxin and others attacked the strange beasts in front of them as if they were going to die. Several times, they could see the sharp claws of alien beasts brushing past everyone. And all this is not because of their good luck, nor because of the mercy of the claws of alien beasts. Instead, they were silver arrows flying out at various incredible angles in the chaotic battlefield. Amazing skills. Terrible battlefield insight. Is this an E-level talent? If you say he is an SSS talent, I believe it. Several people also experienced a sense of security that they had never experienced before. What is a sense of security? This is called a sense of security. Just charge and kill, Chen Qi will naturally take care of the rest. Somewhere 700 meters away, the black alloy longbow was pulled open again, and the silver arrow was placed on the bowstring. Fly out instantly, a sharp sound like the tolling of a death knell, poof. The arrow flew past Xuanyan's ear and penetrated a strange beast at the 5th level of the warrior in front of him. After penetrating its head, the power of the arrow did not weaken at all. After the rapidly rotating arrow penetrated the head of a strange beast again, the powerful power of the arrow exploded. Like being hit by a huge hammer, the head of the alien beast explodes and blood rains everywhere. Xuanyan shouted excitedly, "Brother Chen, you are awesome. Crazy, completely crazy." The team of 49 people did not retreat at all when facing hundreds of strange beasts. So far in the battle, only a few people have been slightly injured. 700 meters away, listening to Xuanyan's excited shouting, Chen Qi's eyes were calm and his expression remained calm. He once again opened the black alloy longbow in his hand. The arrow's cold light was sharp, like a poisonous snake coming out of its hole. In the next second, it transformed into a giant python, choosing and devouring people. The fighting power unleashed by the 49-man team made the 4 veterans in the team excited. Having experienced several battles, they were already accustomed to such scenes. But this time, they felt the joy they had never had before. In previous battles, the alien beasts were extremely powerful. Death often accompanies everyone, and someone will fall if they are not careful. In a small battle, the death toll can even reach 3 digits, and the number of people participating in the battle is only a few hundred. Powerful alien beasts are naturally resisted by strong men, and what they face are just ordinary alien beasts. But just such an enemy has caused the entire team's losses to reach 3 digits. And now, a team of 49 people dared to attack hundreds of strange beasts head-on. No matter where this crazy move is placed, people will exclaim, "Crazy." Yes, they are crazy. Killing like crazy. Just rush and kill, don't worry about anything else. All of this has the magical archer Chen Qi, who is outside the battlefield but has a firm grasp of everything on the battlefield. E-level talent. If there are still people who tell them now, an E-level archer talent can only be used as a combat support role, then they will definitely yell at that person. You know what, which E-class archer have you seen with such terrifying insight? Do you have such a strong ability to control the battlefield? Is there such a powerful force? Whoosh! Silver light passed by his ear and penetrated a strange beast at the 5th level of the warrior realm. Several people shouted excitedly, "Kill!" 700 meters away, Chen Qi kept firing his bow. He could shoot through the Yang with 100 steps without missing any arrows, and his innate skill, Divine Arrow, gave the arrows in Chen Qi's hand strong penetrating power. The arrows whirled, and because they were so fast, the vegetation on the path where the arrows flew seemed to be split to both sides by invisible forces, forming a wide avenue. Then it exploded, somewhere a few hundred meters away from Chen Qi and his team. A pair of cold eyes were staring into the distance. Where is Chen Qi? Li Ji looked around, but did not find Chen Qi. He raised his eyebrows and his eyes fell on Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya on the battlefield. Chen Qi is not here, so I will collect some interest from you. Have you found Feng Ying? Zhang An's voice came from the tactical watch. Li Ji took a deep look at the battlefield not far away, and his calm voice was transmitted through his tactical watch. Nothing was found. It may have gone in other directions. Where do you search? Okay, I'll send you the location later. Zhang An's voice sounded. Li Ji was not talking, but focused his attention on the battlefield in the distance again. They came after the Windok. As the only S-level wind element in the team, he is the fastest. Feng Ying was not found, but he found Su Xingyuan and others. Should we do it or not? Li Ji thought to himself. There are military regulations in the army that prohibit attacks on comrades. This is an iron rule. Not even if his father is in the Wuzong realm. Once military regulations are broken, the punishment he will receive is absolutely unbearable. Ever since he was defeated head-on by Chen Qi, there has been a fire burning in his heart. As time goes by, this fire becomes more and more prosperous. Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan have a good relationship with Chen Qi. Jealousy and hatred made Li Ji hate both of them in his heart. I am now a 5th-level warrior. Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya are also of the same strength, but I am much faster than them. At my speed, I attract a group of strange beasts from elsewhere. These people will be seriously injured even if they don't die. Li Ji's eyes flickered slightly, and he hesitated when the military regulations were placed here. The next second, the twinkling eyes stopped. Collect interest first. As if giving himself enough confidence, Li Ji said, as long as I am fast enough, this group of people will not notice me. After saying that, he was about to turn around and leave, but at this moment, a silver stream of light appeared from the distance and headed straight for the battlefield. Li Ji's pupils shrank suddenly. Chen Qi. He clenched his fingers tightly and turned his head to look in the direction where the arrow appeared. Chen Qi, you are seeking death yourself. He sneered and disappeared. Chen Qi glanced over, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. The place where Li Ji was just now was empty. Although Li Ji did not find Chen Qi, the warrior's instinct for crisis made Chen Qi's eyes involuntarily glance towards the location where Li Ji was just now. Finding nothing unusual, Chen Qi simply stopped looking and began to concentrate on dealing with the battlefield. When Li Ji left, 5 figures appeared somewhere. Looking at the people on the battlefield, especially the flashes of thunder and lightning all over their bodies, the spears in their hands were entangled by thunder and lightning, roaring like a thunder dragon. The spear was like a dragon, and with one shot, a low-level alien beast was blown away by lightning, leaving a terrible scar on its body. The other person, 2 meters tall, stood like a god of war, and the power bursting out from the alloy sledgehammer in his hand was a bit frightening. The leader of the 5 people had a cold look in his eyes. These 2 people are not weak in talent, even he can't help but look at them a few more times. The eyes of the 4 people behind him were also attracted by Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya. One person sneered, these 2 are quite good prospects, but it's a pity that they have to die here today. The other 3 heard this and said, haha, killing people like this will give you enough pleasure. I'm looking forward to the look in the eyes of these 2 people before they die, and I can't even wait. All the discussions of several people fell into the ears of the leader. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were full of cold light when he looked at the battlefield. But the next second, the smile on his face froze. A silver arrow flew out, passed through the chaotic battlefield, and penetrated a strange beast beside Su Xingyuan. A simple arrow landed in his eyes, but his pupils shrank slightly. Turning his head and looking into the distance, that was the direction from which the arrow was flying. Horrible. 2 words flashed through my mind. Able to seize the almost fleeting opportunity in the extremely chaotic battlefield. This already surprised him, but what really made him feel terrible was, when the arrow flew out just now, it seemed that it had predicted all the situations that would occur on the entire flight path, including everyone's next move and the movements of strange beasts. It's like the entire battlefield is performing hard, and its purpose is just for the appearance of that silver arrow. Then cooperate with it to make the next move. Prejudgment. Terrible prediction. This is the ultimate control of timing. This person is the strongest. He made a judgment immediately. Turning his head to look in the direction where the arrow was flying, he narrowed his eyes and sounded an emotionless voice. Find him. When several people heard this, their hearts trembled and they disappeared in an instant. The leader took a deep look at Su Xingyuan and others, and disappeared in the next moment. 30 strange beasts were roaring towards Su Xingyuan and others. Ahead, Li Ji looked pale and came towards Su Xingyuan and others crazily. Zhang Ruya looked up, covered in blood. When he saw Li Ji, he narrowed his eyes slightly. Li Ji, he has a good relationship with Chen Qi. I already knew about Chen Qi's past through chatting with Su Xingyuan. Li Ji's image in his eyes was not good, and could even be said to be annoying. His eyes fell on the dozens of strange beasts behind Li Ji, and a trace of hesitation flashed across his expression. On the side, Wang Er, Xuanyan and others also saw Li Ji running from a distance and dozens of strange beasts behind him. It's Li Ji. Oh my god, what does he want to do? Here come another 30 strange beasts. Crazy, really crazy. The thunder from the tip of the spear blasted into the body of a strange beast in front of him. The thunder was brilliant and then exploded. Su Xingyuan shook his spear and looked up. Su Xingyuan, stop looking at me, save me. Li Ji is very fast. With the blessing of the wind element, his speed can even match that of a 7th level warrior. Boom! A bolt of thunder flew out from the spear and landed next to Li Ji, sending a strange beast flying away. Li Ji's eyelids twitched wildly, and a murderous intent flashed through his eyes as he looked at Su Xingyuan. It disappeared in the blink of an eye, and he shouted in panic, Su Xingyuan, you are crazy. Is it possible that you want to kill me on the battlefield? Su Xingyuan looked calm, looked at him deeply, ignored Li Ji's shouts, and led everyone to resist the attack of the alien beasts. At this moment, more than half of the hundreds of alien beasts had been killed by everyone. I thought I could breathe a sigh of relief, but this piece of shit Li Ji actually attracted dozens of alien beasts again. After such a long battle, everyone frequently activated their talents, which consumed a lot of energy and blood, and it was already difficult to support them. Look, you're still looking. Are you an idiot? Xuanyan couldn't bear it anymore and opened his mouth to curse. After Li Ji pulled in dozens of strange beasts, he did not choose to take action. Instead, he stood aside and watched everyone. This made many people feel angry towards Li Ji. In the team, the 4 veterans were already somewhat exhausted physically and mentally. Li Ji's movements were all caught in the eyes of everyone. Several people's faces turned cold and they were about to speak. Xuanyan's curse immediately cut off the words in their mouths. Take a breath, take a breath. Li Zhipi replied with a smile. The wind element condensed around the body, and several wind blades were sent out, strangling forward. S-level talent is very strong. As soon as he took action, several strange beasts fell to the ground. Everyone's expressions relaxed, and their gazes on Li Ji softened a lot. From Chen Qi's position, when he saw Li Ji appear, his eyes changed slightly. The appearance of dozens of alien beasts instantly replaced the previous alien beasts. The situation once again returned to the beginning. After taking a deep look at Li Ji, Chen Qi opened the black alloy longbow in his hand. On the bowstring, the silver arrow was ready to shoot. The qi and blood in the body are boiling like a river, and the spiritual energy flows and gathers on the arrow, giving the arrow a more powerful penetrating ability. Talent skill, Divine Arrow. The talent skill Divine Arrow can greatly increase the penetration ability of arrows. This is also the reason why the arrows shot from his hands are more powerful. Buzz. The bowstring trembled, and the arrow that had been ready to go turned into silver light and flew out. The moment the arrow flew out, Chen Qi's whole body tensed up instantly, and an extreme danger instantly filled Chen Qi's body. A large amount of adrenaline burst out in the body, the heartbeat also increased to an alarming speed, and the hair on the whole body stood on end. Danger. Extremely dangerous. Chen Qi didn't have time to think about it. He didn't even look back in a hurry, and subconsciously chose to roll aside. Boom. The next moment, a long knife instantly landed where he was just now. The arrow appeared on the bowstring almost as soon as he made a move. Whoosh. An arrow was shot, and its target was exactly behind where he was just now. Clang. A sound of gold and iron sounded. The arrow collided with the long knife, and the powerful force on the arrow was transmitted from the long knife to the arm of the person holding the knife. The figure was pushed back by the powerful force of the arrow, leaving 2 long black marks on the ground. With a bang, the man kicked his left foot on the ground and finally stopped. The fight between the two was extremely fast and was completed almost instantly. The arrow fell to the ground. It was only at this moment that Chen Qi saw clearly the person who had just attacked and killed him. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man with a full beard, a long scar on his face from the eye socket to the left corner of his mouth. This scar almost split his entire head in two. Seeing Chen Qi's eyes, the bearded man shook his numb hands and said with a smile, "Not bad." Chen Qigong was about to speak when 4 figures appeared not far away. His eyes narrowed, he glanced at the 5 people, and then asked calmly, "Who are you?" The handle of the knife turned slightly in the palm of his hand, with the blade facing inward. The man with the cheeks smiled and said nothing. But his eyes couldn't help but look at another young man with a handsome face. The young man looked at Chen Qi in front of him, with surprise flashing across his eyes, and chuckled, "It's rare for an archer to be as talented as you." Chen Qi's eyes were calm, his black eyes were unruffled, and his unruffled voice said, "Who are you?" The handsome young man smiled brightly, "Order. Order." After searching for this name in his mind, Chen Qi calmly said, "I don't know him." "It's okay, it's okay." The handsome young man looked very indifferent, sitting casually on a stone nearby, looking up at Chen Qi, and continued, "Our purpose is to establish a new order. So, order is also the code name of our organization." Chen Qi listened quietly as the young man said to himself, "You should not be an ordinary archer. Can you please tell me, what is your talent level? There is a lot of interest in people like you in the organization." After speaking, before Chen Qi could speak, he looked at Chen Qi in surprise. "It doesn't matter if you don't say it, I'm not interested now." After saying that, he waved to a few people on the side. His smile gradually changed, and there was something crazy in it. "I just want to kill you now." The 4 bearded men flashed and headed straight for Chen Qi. The sword glowed, breaking the air. Killing intent was intertwined. Chen Qi, holding a long bow in his hand, was like a net woven with murderous intent. He could not escape or break it. The handsome young man is fickle. Chen Qi's black eyes turned amber the moment the 4 men with long cheeks disappeared. The arrow appeared on the bowstring almost in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! The arrows are like lightning. The first person slashed out with a long knife in his hand, and the arrows collided. The next moment, the 3 arrows almost formed a line and went straight towards the man. The warrior is at the 7th level, or even the 8th level. Chen Qi had already judged the strength of the people in front of him immediately. Crisis. Life and death crisis. 4 powerful warriors were enemies at the 7th level or even the 8th level. Puff. Each of the 3 arrows is faster than the other. 3-ring set of moon arrows. There was a tearing sound, accompanied by the sound of broken bones. The arrow penetrated a person's throat in the blink of an eye. Kill 7 levels with 1 arrow. The last shot came first, killing a 7th level warrior with 1 arrow. The expressions of the 3 people changed slightly, but their movements did not stop. The 3 long swords intertwined with each other, and Chen Qi was about to be killed on the spot in the next second. Chen Qi's expression remained unchanged, and the smell of death enveloped his whole body. The extreme tension made Chen Qi's nerves tense, and his instinct for survival brought his entire body, reaction and spirit to an unprecedented peak state. Amber eyes twinkled. In his eyes, every trace of the web woven by swords in front of him was intertwined in his mind. He is like a moth about to be caught in a spider's web, constantly looking for loopholes in this big web. It has to be said that the enemies at the 7th level of warriors in front of them are very strong. The cooperation between them is even more flawless. But there is no such thing as perfection in this world. The amber eyes kept flashing, and in the next moment, an arrow flew out from the bowstring. Flying out of the loopholes in this death net, it tore open the net at an incredible angle. A trace of spiritual power lingered on the arrow, and a cold light flickered on the arrow. His target was a man on the right. The arrow roughly tore open the large net intertwined with sword light, and then the speed did not slow down, and it arrived in an instant. The man's eyes widened and he held a long knife in front of him. An unprecedented sense of fear filled his entire body. The next moment, The arrow passed through his throat, and the powerful force flew his body backwards, and then fell heavily to the ground, the tail of the arrow trembling. Second arrow. Another 7th level warrior was shot dead by Chen Qi. In just a few seconds from beginning to end, 2 7th level warriors were shot and killed by Chen Qi one after another. Such a change fell into the eyes of the remaining 2 people. Their expressions changed, and their eyes were full of horror when they looked at Chen Qi. This man must die. The long sword has been unsheathed and will not be withdrawn until there is blood. Only 2 of the 4 long knives are left. The large net formed by the intertwined blades was torn apart by Chen Qi's 4 arrows. The arrows are exhausted, the long knife is in front of the body, and there is no possibility of firing any more arrows. Killing intent burst into their eyes, and ferocious smiles appeared on their faces. Let me see how you escape now. Die. 2 voices sounded at the same time. Chen Qi raised his eyes to look at the long knife that was slashing towards his head, and suddenly drew the bowstring again. The 2 of them were confused, and the young man not far away couldn't help but reveal a hint of ridicule when they saw Chen Qi's actions. The long bow has no arrows, and the bowstring is empty. Chen Qi's actions seemed to have given up resistance in the eyes of several people. The bowstring being pulled at this moment is nothing more than a fantasy before death. However, before a few people could think about it, the next moment, the bowstring vibrated and made a sound. At this moment, 2 long knives were cut in front of him. Buzz! The bowstring trembled, and the air was like a sharp arrow. The person in front of him couldn't help but squint his eyes. And at this moment, the black alloy long bow turned in Chen Qi's hand, and the bow made of alloy instantly blocked the long knife that had been struck in front of him. There was a clang and fire splashed. Chen Qi didn't stop and was using his bow and rein to block the long sword. He clenched a fist with 5 fingers of his right hand, and then punched the man in the face. Bang! Half of the head exploded, brains splattered everywhere, and white bones appeared. There was no time to care about anything else, as another knife had already struck in front of him. Chen Qi turned sideways slightly, and with the innate skill of Eagle Eye, the trajectory of the long knife had been completely captured by him. The long knife grazed his body. He kicked out with a click. The man who had half his head smashed off by Chen Qi immediately flew dozens of meters away. He hit the ground with a bang, his mouth opened slightly, and blood mixed with internal organs spit out from his mouth. Blood flowed out of the nose. More air in and less air out. However, in just a few breaths, it was completely lifeless. Panting heavily, in a short period of time, Chen Qi's entire body was drained of energy. His face was a little pale. Without giving him a chance to breathe, the sword light flew in front of him again. Die to me. The blade was sharp and cut open the skin of Chen Qi's throat, causing blood to seep out. The man holding the long knife had madness in his eyes and a crazy smile on his face. In a short period of time, 3 warriors at the 7th level were killed with a 6th level warrior. Such strength was so strong that he felt scared. You know, the Chen Qi in front of him is only an archer. He seemed to have seen the fear in Chen Qi's eyes and the scene of blood spurting out. And the next second, the smile on his face froze. Clang! A silver iron rod stood in front of the long knife, and flames flew everywhere. Bang! With a kick, the man in front of him fell back. Ha! Chen Qi touched the blood on his neck and looked at the man with murderous intent in his eyes. You! The pain in his chest came, and the man raised his head and looked at the silver iron rod in Chen Qi's hand. A broken stick, let me see if you can stop me. He laughed ferociously again, and the sword light burst out. The next second, the silver iron rod in Chen Qi's hand turned into a silver gun with a swish. The sudden change made the man's expression freeze. At the moment before he could react, a silver gun pierced his chest. Before he could even scream, he stabbed to the ground with a scoff, and blood dripped from the silver gun. His widened eyes contained endless doubts. How could a silver iron rod turn into a silver gun? Why does an archer carry a spear with him? Isn't he an archer? No one answered these doubts for him. Chen Qi walked slowly away, walked up to him, reached out and pulled out the silver gun, raised his foot and kicked the body away. The corpse flew several meters and hit the ground heavily, with blood flowing out of the big hole in the chest. Wonderful, wonderful. The handsome young man clapped his hands and applauded, like an audience watching a performance. 4 people were killed by Chen Qi one after another, without any disturbance in his expression. With a smile, he looked Chen Qi up and down. His expression was serious and his tone was serious. You passed the test of order. A genius like you should join us. A sneer flashed across Chen Qi's eyes, but he said nothing. He walked forward slowly, the tip of his spear dragging the ground. The handsome young man's voice continued. Don't you think the order of this world is not perfect enough? A genius like you should join us. Oh, Chen Qi smiled disdainfully. Silver gun in hand, take action suddenly. The gun comes out like a dragon. The handsome young man raised his head and looked calmly at the tip of the spear aimed at him. An indifferent voice said, "It seems you have rejected me." The sword that had been held in his hand suddenly shot out. With a clang, the tip of the spear collided with the sword, and the tip of the spear flew sideways. Chen Qi's eyes were slightly focused, and he took half a step towards the left with his left foot, then concentrated on his waist and exerted force suddenly. The barrel of the silver gun was bent like a big bow, sweeping towards the handsome young man. Buzz! A dull sound broke through the air. The handsome young man's eyes fell on Chen Qi, without even looking at the spear that was sweeping towards him. Just when the spear was about to reach his side, he struck out with a palm. A huge force caused the spear to fly out again. The corners of his lips were raised slightly, and a mocking voice sounded, "I am not a waste of the 7th level of warriors." After saying that, the momentum around him suddenly rose, and the sword glowed. "I am the 8th level warrior." With a silver spear and black armor, Chen Qi raised his eyes and looked at the handsome young man. Surprise flashed across his eyes. The huge power transmitted from the silver gun made his arms feel numb. The 8th level of warrior. No wonder the handsome young man's expression remained unchanged from beginning to end. Even if all 4 of them died in Chen Qi's hands. He raised his eyebrows slightly, and his calm eyes fell on the handsome young man. An archer actually practices marksmanship. The handsome young man looked indifferent, with a comment in his tone, "At least he is proficient. Your talent is really strong. But it's a pity." Before he could finish speaking, a silver gun was smashed in front of him. "You are pretending to be crazy." Chen Qi would not take advantage of the handsome young man's habit of showing off and shoot him without any nonsense. Silver spears and long bows are both made of alloy. The entire silver gun weighs more than 100 kilograms. A gun was thrown out and the air exploded. After the war spirit technique enters the 2nd level of condensing spirit realm, the speed of recovery will be greatly increased. Spiritual energy and blood surge through the body like a river. The handsome young man's eyes narrowed slightly, and the smile on his lips became colder. "You really don't want to eat the toast, but you will be punished with a drink." After saying that, the hand holding the handle of the sword suddenly clenched tightly, and then slashed out with the sword. Sen Han's sword light burst out, and a stone in front of him exploded. When you reach the 8th level of warrior realm, your strength and speed will be greatly improved. Chen Qi has the blessing of SSS talent, but he doesn't have enough resources, and so far he can't reach the 6th level of warrior. There are still 2 realms short of the 8th level. The handsome young man slashed out with his sword, and the power carried by the sword split the air, making a sharp sound. His amber eyes sparkled, and the silver gun surged like a dragon in his hand. Blocked the handsome young man's sword. There was a clang, and the huge force almost made Chen Qi unable to hold the silver spear. As if his feet were rooted to the ground, the power from the silver gun was transmitted to his arms through the gun barrel, and then quickly spread throughout his body. The tactical watch in his hand was shattered into pieces and flew everywhere. Bang! The legs suddenly sank to 10 centimeters. The strength gap between the 2 sides is slightly larger, and Chen Qi is no match for him when facing him head-on. Can't touch head-on. Feeling the power coming from the silver gun, Chen Qi made a judgment immediately. Strength and speed are linked to one's own strength, and the same is true for talent. If you want to unleash the full potential of your talents, you must improve your own strength. Seeing Chen Qi's legs sagging, the handsome young man's eyes showed sarcasm. The long knife struck out again. But this time, the long knife was not slashed out as randomly as before, but with an increasingly fierce aura. Sword and martial arts skills. The handsome young man seemed to have lost his patience this time, and his long knives intertwined into a web full of murderous intent. Chen Qi's whole person was enveloped in it. Talent, skill, eagle eye insight. The silver spear flew around, hitting the weakest point of the sword light every time. The sound of collision continued. The two sides seemed to be involved in a back-and-forth battle. Somewhere only a few dozen meters away from the battlefield, Li Ji looked at the scene in front of him in surprise. 4 bodies lay on the ground. Both men were pierced by arrows. One person only had half of his head left, and the other had a big hole in his chest. Were these 4 people killed by Chen Qi? Such a conjecture flashed through Li Ji's mind. His eyes moved and looked at the 2 people in the field. The handsome young man pressed forward step by step, and Chen Qi's face became paler every time he used his sword. There was a smile on his lips, as if he was teasing Chen Qi. At least the 7th level warrior, or even the 8th level. Li Ji had already judged the strength of the handsome young man immediately. Chen Qi can actually challenge the 8th level warrior head-on. Li Ji's eyes widened. Chen Qi, you'd better die before I take action. Looking at Chen Qi, whose face was getting paler and who seemed to be unable to resist the long knife attack, Li Ji's eyes were sinister. In the field, Chen Qi's amber eyes shrank slightly. The silver spear in his hand suddenly stabbed out at a mysterious and strange angle. I almost want to let go of my long sword. The handsome young man's expression changed. He looked at Chen Qi with shock in his eyes. Chen Qi's shot just now was able to accurately hit the weak spot in his sword and martial arts. No matter what the handsome young man was thinking, after the spear was thrust out, the silver spear was like a dragon, drawing a silver trajectory in the air, and he stamped his feet fiercely. With the silver gun in hand, he flew towards the handsome young man. Death, death, death. Li Ji, who was hiding not far away, stared closely at the field. Seeing that Chen Qi dared to take the initiative towards the handsome young man, Li Ji was so nervous that his breathing became much smaller. Bang! Chen Qi flew back at an even faster speed. He fell heavily to the ground and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The spear penetrated 2 centimeters into the handsome young man's chest, and traces of blood flowed out from the wound. That's all you can do. You can still be proud of being able to hurt me with the strength of a 6th level warrior. He reached out and touched his chest. The handsome young man raised his eyes and looked at Chen Qi, his eyes filled with a cold light. After saying that, he walked slowly towards Chen Qi. At the 6th level of the warrior realm, a blow from oneself would definitely result in serious injuries. And Chen Qi's blood just now verified this result. Die! A cold voice sounded. The handsome young man looked down at the pale Chen Qi in front of him, and suddenly slashed down with his long knife. Okay, kill him, kill him. Not far away, Li Ji clenched his fists. He was so excited that he almost screamed. But in the next moment, Chen Qi picked up the black alloy longbow at hand, and a silver arrow appeared in his hand. The bowstring is fully drawn, and the arrows are like lightning. He came out from the string, roughly tore open the sword in front of him, and went straight towards the young man's throat at a strange angle. The next moment, puff, the handsome young man's movements stopped abruptly. The arrow penetrated the throat and flew out from the back of the head. Bring up a piece of blood. The handsome young man's eyes widened and he looked down in disbelief at the silver arrow that penetrated his throat. How is it possible? He struggled to spit out a few words. Isn't Chen Qi already seriously injured? A 6th level warrior can withstand a full blow from a warrior at the 8th level head on without being injured. How is this possible? However, the next second, he understood. It's a battle armor. A 6th level warrior can actually wear combat armor. The body fell down weakly, stirring up a cloud of dust. Call! Chen Qi gasped for breath, his expression full of fatigue. In a short period of time, he experienced a life and death crisis. 4 warriors are at the 7th level, and 1 warrior is at the 8th level. Don't dare to delay, close your eyes and concentrate, and use the fighting spirit method to restore the blood, spiritual energy, physical strength and spirit in the body. Li Ji froze on the spot. He never expected that Chen Qi would survive and even kill an 8th level warrior. Looking at Chen Qi, who was not far away with his eyes closed and concentrating, a stern look flashed in his eyes. The next moment, the wind elements gathered together, and several invisible wind blades slashed towards Chen Qi. Li Ji didn't want to wait any longer. There's no better opportunity than now. Chen Qi's fighting prowess has frightened Li Ji. The invisible wind blade slashed towards Chen Qi. With the martial arts wind shadow step, Li Ji moved like the wind, and the superior elements of the sword in his hand continued to gather. Level 3 martial arts wind breaking slash. As if Chen Qi's buttocks were on fire, the moment he opened his eyes, his figure disappeared instantly. The next moment, a silver gun was held in his hand. Clang! Several invisible wind blades collided with the spear tip. Chen Qi, die! A figure came like a wind, very fast. The sword flashed coldly. Chen Qi's eyes narrowed, and murderous intent flashed across his eyes. Li Ji, you are looking for death. His eyes were like lightning, looking directly at Li Ji, who was not far away in front of him. The invisible wind blade was swept away by the silver gun, and a big hole suddenly appeared in the surrounding wall. It was cut by the wind blade. Dust and smoke gradually began to rise. Chen Qi, die! Although he was surprised by Chen Qi's reaction, Li Ji now had no way out. The sword glowed, cutting through the air and making a hissing sound. After the previous battle, Chen Qi was definitely at his weakest now. With abundant resources, Li Ji's strength increased rapidly. 5th level warrior. He originally thought that Chen Qi was only at the 4th level of warrior realm, or even the 3rd level. But the previous scene gave him a murderous intention that he could no longer contain. Chen Qi must die. When he defeated himself, Chen Kikai was only a 3rd level warrior, which is what he thought. But in just half a month, Chen Qi transformed and had the astonishing strength to challenge and kill an 8th level warrior head-on. He knew very well what he had done to Chen Qi. Once Chen Qi's strength surpassed his own, he would definitely be suppressed by Chen Qi in the army. Take action brazenly. Military regulations can no longer restrain Li Ji. At this moment, he has only one idea in his mind. I'll kill you while you're sick. No matter how strong Chen Qi is, it is impossible for him to be without a little consumption. The paleness on his face already meant that Chen Qi was at the end of his rope. Now is the best time. Before taking action, he had already thrown away his tactical watch to prevent anyone from finding out. With the sword in his hand tightly, and under the blessing of the wind element, Li Ji suddenly disappeared from the place like a ghost, leaving an afterimage behind him. It wasn't until he appeared 30 meters away that the afterimage gradually dissipated. At this moment, he was only 10 meters away from Chen Qi. With the blessing of wind element and body and martial arts, Li Ji is so fast. But in the blink of an eye, the long knife was in front of him. Killing intent is like a rainbow. Straight up Chen Qi. Looking at the long knife coming towards him, Chen Qi narrowed his eyes and suddenly pointed out the silver spear. Li Ji was fast, but Chen Qi was not slow either. The spear came from behind and was fired at a strange angle. Clang! The sound of gold and iron clashing sounded, and a terrifying force came from the long sword. The hand holding the long knife was hit by a huge force, his arm went numb, and the long knife fell to the ground. Buzz! The silver gun was like electricity, reaching the throat. Death enveloped Li Ji. His eyes widened, and there was unconcealable fear in his eyes. The scalp is numb and the hairs all over the body stand on end. Chen Qi wants to kill himself. Li Ji screamed, Chen Qi, if you dare to kill me, your family will not survive. Laugh. The tip of the gun stopped instantly, only 1 centimeter away from his throat. The strong wind cut open the skin of the throat, and traces of blood seeped out. Ha! 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 Li Ji gasped for breath, feeling numb all over. There was no concealed murderous intent in Chen Qi's eyes, he really wanted to kill himself. Seeing the tip of the gun stop, Li Ji's eyes flickered slightly. He opened his mouth and said, Chen Qi, I'm just an E-level talent. If you kill me. Before he finished speaking, the tip of the gun at his throat suddenly moved. One shot penetrated his throat. You. Li Ji's eyes widened with disbelief. Chen Qi actually dared to kill himself. The body fell back, with a pair of indifferent eyes, who said I have an E-level talent. If I practice cultivation, Emperor Wuzong will see me like a cricket seeing the sky. Bang! Li Ji's body fell heavily to the ground. Get out of the way. Su Xingyuan's face turned pale, and the thunder surrounding him was much weaker than before. Thunder lingered on the spear, killing a strange beast with one shot. Thank you, Captain. Shui Nian gasped for air, a smile appeared on his pale face, and he turned to look around, why did Chen Qi go? Su Xingyuan's eyes flashed with confusion. I don't know. The alloy sledgehammer in Zhang Rui's hand knocked out two strange beasts, and she glanced around. Strange beasts come one after another. There were nearly 40 of the hundreds of strange beasts left. And there were only 30 people left to fight out of the original 50-person team. In a short period of time, the number of casualties reached 20. Did something happen to Chen Qi? Zhang Rui looked at Su Xingyuan, the muscles in her arms bulged high, like a horned dragon swimming. Su Xingyuan did not answer, he also wanted to know this question. His eyes swept across the battlefield. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he asked in a deep voice, where did Li Ji go? Everyone was stunned and glanced around, but did not find Li Ji's figure. When was Li Ji not here? Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan looked at each other, and they both guessed where Li Ji had gone. Bang! A team member was knocked out by the alien beast. If Zhao Juxin hadn't used his earth element talent to stop the alien beast, he would have been killed. Zhao Juxin panted heavily and continuously activated his talents, causing his consumption to reach its limit. Yu Li Ji, I will kill him if I see him again. Xuan Yan cursed loudly, and the hand holding the sword couldn't help but tremble. The four veterans listened to the conversation, and their faces were very ugly. If it weren't for Li Ji attracting 30 strange beasts, this battle would have ended long ago. Chen Qi will not be in danger. Chen Qi should be fine. He may have encountered something else. Su Xingyuan shook his head and made a quick judgment. The weird cry sounded again, strange beasts mingled with each other, and their attacks became more fierce. Shadow Fox. The main reason why this battle has become so difficult is the Shadow Fox. Careful. Suddenly, 5 strange beasts of the 5th level of warriors all rushed towards Su Xingyuan. At this moment, the remaining 3 wind saber leopards were shot towards Su Xingyuan by several invisible wind blades. Wang and others looked shocked. Su Xingyuan's current consumption is huge, and the thunder around him is almost disappearing. This is the result of overdraft of talent. And at this moment, the alien beast suddenly launched an attack on him. Su Xingyuan raised his eyes and saw the sharp claws of 5 alien beasts flashing with cold light. Several invisible wind blades cut through the air and surrounded him. Zhang Ruya roared angrily, her majestic body like a wall, standing in front of Su Xingyuan, waving the alloy sledgehammer in her hand, blocking several wind blades. Then a hammer was thrown out, and with a bang, an alien beast was instantly smashed and exploded. Blood rain fell, turning the 2 of them into bloody men. The other 4 alien beasts continued to attack Su Xingyuan without slowing down. A bunch of beasts also want to kill me. Thunder appeared again, and when the thunder burst from the tip of the spear, Su Xingyuan had thunder swimming in his eyes. A cold voice sounded, and then a gun was swung out. With a bang, 2 alien beasts exploded. The next second, Su Xingyuan's body shook, his spear fell to the ground, and his body fell backwards. He was already at the end of his strength. On the battlefield, his consumption is the greatest, as he has the strongest thunder talent in the entire team. He has to fend off attacks from all directions almost all the time. Team leader, Xingyuan. Everyone was anxious and wanted to save Su Xingyuan, but the strange beast seemed to be crazy and tried desperately to stop everyone. The sharp claws of the 2 alien beasts were about to fall on Su Xingyuan's body in the next moment. Su Xingyuan slowly closed his eyes, and he could even smell the smell of death. Whoosh! A sharp voice sounded. The silver spear flew from the sky like a meteor, so fast that it seemed to break the boundaries of time and space. At the moment when the claws of the alien beasts were about to fall on Su Xingyuan, the silver spear penetrated the bodies of the 2 alien beasts with thunderous force. The powerful force dragged the bodies of the alien beasts, crashed through the wall, bricks and stones flew, and then hit hard nailed to the ground. Chen Qi! Zhang Ruya shouted excitedly. Everyone on the battlefield looked in the direction where the silver gun flew out. There, a figure in black armor was rushing towards this side. The silver spear was like a thick arrow, piercing the bodies of the 2 beasts at the critical moment. Seeing the 2 strange beasts being pierced by silver spears, everyone looked into the distance. Chen Qi, who was wearing combat armor, was like a shooting star, flying into the battlefield in the blink of an eye. Chen Qi. Everyone's eyes lit up on the battlefield. Chen Qi's sudden appearance made everyone feel surprised. All shouted, His gaze was like a torch, and his eyes swept across the battlefield, and the face hidden under the hood looked very mysterious. Supported by Zhang Ruya, Su Xingyuan opened his eyes, a smile appeared on his pale face, and then he laughed and cursed, "This guy is pretending again." Zhang Ruya was speechless. How long had it been? She was still thinking about this. Wang Xuanyan and others also smiled. With the blessing of the war armor, Chen Qi punched out without dodging. The head of a strange beast was dented by the smash, and it was kicked out, causing the body to fly more than 10 meters. Pulling out the silver gun, his whole body was filled with fighting spirit, and he raised his eyes to look at everyone. In a short period of time, the number of casualties has reached more than 20 people. Everyone was covered in blood, and the original colors of their military uniforms had all been dyed red. Looking up, everyone seemed to be wearing scarlet armor, and fighting spirit pervaded everyone. No nonsense, his body was slightly lowered, his waist suddenly exerted force, the gun body bent like a long bow, and then rebounded fiercely. A sound like a tiger roaring through the air swept through several strange beasts in front of him with a frightening force. The moment a low-level alien beast was struck by the silver spear, its entire body was broken in an instant by the terrifying force. His internal organs were flying, and the momentum of the spear continued unabated until it swept past all the strange beasts in front of him. One move. With just one move, 6 alien beasts were swept away by Chen Qi and crashed to the ground, roaring in pain. Everyone who looked at this scene had their eyes widened and their expressions were full of disbelief. What the hell, is this an E-class archer? The 4 veterans looked at the scene in front of them with wide eyes, and their hearts were shocked. At least the 6th level of warrior. Even the 7th level. One person made a quick judgment. Among the strange beasts that Chen Qi swept past just now, there were 3 warriors at the 6th level. Hiss. It's so scary. Is this still a new recruit? Why do I think he is more of a veteran than me, a veteran? Old Wang, look at Guba. Xuanyan came to his senses, turned to look at Wang who was stunned, slapped him on the head, and then shouted excitedly, "What are you waiting for? Follow Chen Qi, kill them." Everyone was shocked by Xuanyan's voice. After a brief moment of confusion, their expressions were filled with excitement and fighting spirit. Roaring and charging towards the strange beast in front of him. The 4 veterans looked at Chen Qi, who was at the front of the team. At this moment, Chen Qi was the well-deserved captain in their hearts. The change in mentality has quietly occurred. Su Xingyuan sat slumped on the corpse of the alien beast beneath him, not caring about the blood beneath him. He looked up at the scene in front of him, a smile flashing in his eyes. Their team is actually quite strange. In this team, he is the captain. Although Chen Qi is not the captain, in everyone's heart he is even more like the captain than the captain. When Su Xingyuan fell just now, everyone tried their best to save him. The team was already in a panic by then. However, when Chen Qi appeared, the originally flustered team was united again in a short period of time. When he fell, Chen Qi was the captain. Being able to unite the fighting spirit of the entire team together as soon as he appears is an ability that even Zhang Ruya does not have. Apart from Chen Qi, there is no other person. The number of alien beasts is constantly decreasing, and everyone is eager to fight. Although exhausted, and pale, as soon as he saw the figure at the front of the team, he would raise the weapon in his hand again, grit his teeth and charge towards the strange beast in front of him. Something that had never happened before grew out of everyone in this team, and it could never be erased. Potential. The troops in the army face strong and weak enemies, and defeating the weak is not considered a skill. When faced with more enemies than themselves or strong enemies, they can act boldly without fear. This is momentum. The development of momentum often requires several battles to emerge. But this team has formed a momentum in a short period of time. Although it is weak, it has quietly taken root in everyone's heart. Laugh. The cold light from the tip of the spear shot straight out, and in the blink of an eye it penetrated the head of a strange beast. A strange cry sounded. The remaining dozen or so strange beasts in the field retreated like a tide and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Tired. Seeing the alien beast retreating, Xuanyan's body went limp and he collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. So does everyone else. This battle lasted only a short time, but the crisis of life and death always haunted everyone. When the crisis was over, everyone could no longer hold on and collapsed on the ground. Xuanyan even lay down on the ground with his chest rising and falling. The endless tiredness cannot be concealed. The silver gun shook, and the blood and flesh on it were blown away. Chen Qi gasped slightly, his eyes fell on Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ria, and said, "Be careful, I'll be right back." After saying that, the whole person disappeared in place. A black alloy longbow appeared in his hand, and 3 silver arrows fell behind him. The silver gun turned into a silver iron rod again and hung on his waist. His figure was like electricity, and within a few jumps, Chen Qi's figure had already appeared on the roof of a house. He raised his eyes and looked around. Like a receding tide, a strange beast is heading in a certain direction. He squinted his eyes, a cold look flashing across his eyes. There are 2 mortal targets in this battle. Shadow Fox, Li Ji. If it weren't for the Shadow Fox commanding these strange beasts from behind, this battle would never have been so difficult. The dozens of strange beasts attracted by Li Ji added a terrible crisis to this battle. There were more than 20 casualties. Chen Qi, whose figure flashed and had reached the 6th level of a warrior, was extremely fast and had quietly caught up with the escaping team of alien beasts in a short period of time. He was not in a hurry to take action. At this moment, he was hiding in a towering tree. His whole body was wrapped in dark armor and he blended into the shadows. His amber eyes stared into the distance, waiting for the Shadow Fox to appear. A few minutes later, a silver-gray figure quietly appeared under a large rock in front of the alien beast. When all the strange beasts saw the Shadow Fox, they lowered their heads. This means that the Shadow Fox has a higher status than this group of strange beasts. Chen Qi's eyes were calm, as if he didn't have any emotions, and 3 arrows quietly appeared on the bowstring. The bowstring was slowly pulled open, and a trace of spiritual energy flowed through the arrowheads of the 3 arrows. The energy and blood in his body gradually boiled, and after entering the 2nd level of the War Spirit technique, his recovery speed was not slow. Feeling the boiling energy and blood in his body, Chen Qi's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The Shadow Fox continued to make strange noises, as if cursing the alien beast in front of him for being such a waste. Whoosh! A sharp sound broke through the air, and 3 arrows flashed past, roughly tearing apart the branches and leaves of the trees blocking the path. The branches and leaves of trees were pierced by arrows and then exploded into pieces. The Shadow Fox has a body like a bow, with hair all over its body, and a pair of black and white eyes showing humanized fear. The 3 arrows flashed away, and before the strange beasts could react, they appeared in front of the Shadow Fox. Laugh! Before he could even scream, a ray of silver light penetrated the Shadow Fox's head. The arrow dragged its body and pinned it to the boulder behind it. Roar! A strange beast roared, but as soon as the sound sounded, 2 more silver lights were seen flying towards them. The arrow passed through the throat of the beast that raised its head and roared, flew out from the back of its head, and was inserted into the body of the Shadow Fox that was nailed to the boulder. 3 arrows shook. All the strange beasts were silent, and then the beasts and birds dispersed. Chen Qi glanced at the Shadow Fox that was nailed to the boulder and disappeared. Chapter 51. What are you doing here, Chen Qi? Zhang Ruya looked at the direction where Chen Qi disappeared and asked doubtfully. Su Xingyuan thought for a while. Shadow Fox. He immediately guessed the purpose of Chen Qi's departure. In this battle, if it weren't for the Shadow Fox commanding them from behind and the dozens of strange beasts attracted by Li Ji, their casualties wouldn't have been so heavy. When they thought of Li Ji, Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya and others felt a surge of anger in their hearts. After this operation is over, I have to settle the score with him. Zhao Juxin has a bad temper. Listening to the conversation between Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan, he couldn't help but gritted his teeth and said. Wang Xuanyan and everyone else spoke one after another. In his words, he was extremely angry at Li Ji's previous behavior. That piece of shit pulled in dozens of strange beasts and then sneaked away again. It's really not a thing. That's true, isn't it? If it weren't for our strength and the appearance of Chen Qi, our casualties would definitely be greater. On this topic, everyone could no longer contain the anger in their hearts, and they all opened their mouths to attack Li Ji. The 4 veterans in the team looked extremely ugly at this moment. The casualties in this battle could not have been so great. In the previous battles, they had steadily gained the upper hand. But when Li Ji came in with dozens of strange beasts, the situation took a turn for the worse. In a short period of time, there were more than 20 casualties. This result made them remember the name Li Ji deeply in their hearts. After the operation is over, they will file a complaint against Li Ji for what he did. No one wants to fight side by side with such a person who runs away during the battle. Trust is not something that is said, but something done. Being able to safely leave your back to the comrades behind you is the greatest trust, which is built up bit by bit. A moment later, Chen Qi's figure jumped from the roof of a private building and hit the ground, leaving a deep hole. Chen Qi, team leader. Hearing the word captain in Shui Nian's mouth, Chen Qi's expression froze for a moment, then he came back to his senses, looked at Shui Nian with a smile, and said nothing. When the other team members heard Shui Nian calling him captain, they all looked at him. Wang Er was stunned, patted him on the shoulder, winked and said, "Okay, you kid, you don't have to carry it on your back now, you dare to call Captain Chen Qi in front of our captain. Why did you shout the truth?" Ren Zhanmin shook his head helplessly and said with a smile on his face. Everyone else smiled. Shui Nian shrank his neck and quietly looked at Su Xingyuan, who was not far away. After swallowing his saliva, he said, "Why is our captain so stingy?" "It's just a joke, really, I really don't think so." "Do you think the captain believes it?" Wang Er said with a smile, and pursed his lips towards Su Xingyuan, who was not far away. "Really, my respect for the captain is like a torrential river. You can take out the trash." Shui Nian. Chen Qi walked up to Su Xingyuan with a smile. "What, you don't care about being handsome now? You know what the heck, a man covered in blood can explode, okay." Su Xingyuan curled his lips and said to Chen Qi in disgust. After saying that, he glanced at Shui Nian, who was not far away. Shui Nian shrank his neck and smiled. He looked away and said, "Shui Nian, this guy is itchy." Zhang Ruya and Chen Qi looked at each other, and Zhang Ruya quietly gave a thumbs up. Zhang Ruya also spent a lot of money, sitting on the ground with a strong figure. This kid Zhang Ruya is like this. His personality and appearance are completely opposite. "Old Zhang, why don't you think about changing your name?" Chen Qi said with a smile. "Your chest muscles are so big, why not call them tensor muscles?" Zhang Ruya. Seeing that Zhang Ruya didn't answer, Chen Qi shrugged and sat down on the corpse of the alien beast. More than 20 casualties. Chen Qi's eyes fell on the group of people responsible for treatment not far away, with helplessness in his tone. If he hadn't been restrained by the 5 people of order, perhaps there wouldn't have been such heavy casualties. "Ha!" Zhang Ruya groaned and said coldly, "If it weren't for the dozens of strange beasts that Li Ji brought and later even escaped from the battlefield, how could there have been such heavy casualties?" Chen Qi narrowed his eyes and raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Li Ji, hee. It is possible that this matter cannot be concealed. However, the appearance of a few people from order made this matter more feasible. I can definitely push it to the people in order," Su Xingyuan said coldly, with lightning flashing in his eyes, and his tone was indifferent, "deliberately putting your comrades in crisis and escaping from the battle. These 2 things are enough to sentence him. Quote, if it weren't for being in the military, I would have killed him. He has a martial arts master behind him. Are you sure you can destroy him?" Chen Qi looked at Su Xingyuan with a smile and did not say anything about Li Ji. As long as this matter is not exposed, it is absolutely impossible for him to take the initiative to say it. Although his strength is about to break through to the 7th level of a warrior, compared with the Wuzong, he is still 4 realms behind. A Wuzong level man goes crazy. He absolutely cannot bear it. The matter of killing Li Ji must not be exposed before he has enough strength. Su Xingyuan's expression froze and he groaned, "Wuzong is just like that. When I become Wuzong, I will beat the shit out of him." Zhang Ruya raised her eyebrows slightly, with a hint of disdain in her eyes and said nothing. It seemed that Wuzong was just like that in his eyes. When Chen Qi and others resumed their rest, they were in the office of Linggu County. Shang Han's tall figure was bowing slightly, his expression full of respect. In front of me, an old man with white hair came slowly. The old man was gentle and elegant, without any military temperament in his expression. At first glance, he looks like a helpless scholar. Teacher, Zhang Zesheng, a strong man in the martial spirit realm. With a gentle smile on his face, he nodded slightly to Shang Han, looked up and looked around, and said with emotion, I haven't been here for many years. Shang Han still has the aura of the Wuzong realm at this moment. He is walking next to Zhang Zesheng like an ordinary student. Hearing Zhang Zesheng's emotion, he smiled and said, Teacher, you can actually come back again. You are also one of the leaders of this talent plan. Zhang Zesheng waved his hand, with a slight smile on his face, and said in a gentle voice, You know my situation. The strength is still falling, and there is no way it can come back. After saying that, he changed the topic and looked at Shang Han, frowning slightly. Wuzong realm, the speed is a bit slow. Yes, it's a bit slow. Shang Han nodded without refuting. In just a few years, he broke through to the Wuzong realm. This speed is already considered abnormal, but in Zhang Zesheng's eyes, it is still a bit slow. All this is just because the Zhang Zesheng in front of him is faster than Shang Han. Wuzong, in his eyes, was really not a strong man. After all, he had been injured decades ago, and his strength began to decline, and decades had passed. He has fallen to the current martial spirit realm. One can imagine how strong he used to be. What about the kid? Take me to see him. Zhang Zesheng did not continue to say more on this topic and moved the topic elsewhere. Operation Night Owl is still going on. I'll take you to the control room. Well, let's go. Monitoring room. Zhang Zesheng sat back on the chair, his eyes shining with a hint of light, without the turbidity of an ordinary old man. Although his strength is constantly declining, he still has the strength of the martial spirit realm. Shang Han sat aside, looking like a well-behaved student. Speaking of which, Shang Han is not considered Zhang Zesheng's student. In his life, he has only accepted a handful of students. And these people are all in high positions now, and Shang Han has only been studying with him for 3 months. Teacher, this is the Chen Qi I'm telling you about. In the picture, there is a black figure wearing battle armor, holding a long bow, and a pair of amber eyes hidden under a black hood. Around him, corpses of strange beasts were scattered, with Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ria and others standing beside him. The 3 of them had smiles on their faces. Shang Han's voice sounded. Although he is only an E-level talent, his strength is not weak, and his training speed is far beyond that of his peers, almost comparable to S-level talent or even double S. In the first recruit competition assessment, Chen Qi's overall evaluation was A++. A trace of surprise flashed across Zhang Zesheng's eyes, and he nodded slightly, signaling Shang Han to continue. He didn't know much about Chen Qi before. He just received a call from Shang Han, listened to a few words and then refused. But later, Chen Qi's performance in the recruit competition assessment, his head-on defeat of S-level talents in the ring, and Chen Qi's unusual training speed. Only then did Zhang Zesheng start to focus on Chen Qi. In China, there are many people with archer talents. But high-level archers don't have many talents, and among them, his S-level talent is the strongest. The continuous decline in strength gave Zhang Zesheng a sense of urgency in his heart. Desperately wanting to find a student who can pass on the legacy. Shang Han's voice continued to sound. Teacher, talent cannot determine a person's final achievement. When I first started as an A-level talent, almost no one thought highly of me. But I still made it to today. After finishing speaking, he paused. This talent plan, almost every legion is working hard, and so are the geniuses from Wuhan University outside. Once the recommended talents perform well in the talent plan, they will have a lot of resources. No one who enters the talent plan is easy. These people have a lot of room for growth. Maybe they can find a way in the future. Zhang Zesheng withdrew his gaze and looked at Shang Han with a smile. Shang Han had a look of begging on his face. Zhang Zesheng smiled calmly. After decades, I have already looked away. If there is a way, I won't fall into the martial spirit realm. Look away, Xiaoshang, do you think this little guy is the one who will inherit my mantle? Shang Han was helpless. He looked at Chen Qi on the screen, hesitated and said, I don't know. Such an answer fell in Zhang Zesheng's ears, and he shook his head and said with emotion, after decades of fighting, it's like walking on thin ice. I have never thought about actively looking for students. I've seen this little guy, he has a sharp aura, his training speed is not weak, and his talent doesn't matter. I'll see him when the operation is over. Well, okay. Shang Han nodded and said nothing more. The perspective in the picture is not Chen Qi's perspective, but that of others. During the operation, it was normal for the tactical watch to be damaged, and Shang Han didn't think much about anything else. Didi. The tactical watches of Su Xingyuan and others suddenly made a rapid sound. Everyone looked at it. After just one glance, everyone's expressions changed slightly. What? Chen Qi's tactical watch was damaged. He looked at Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya and others whose expressions changed slightly. Zhang Ruya's face darkened and she said, "Here comes the help." "What do you mean?" Chen Qi was stunned. "Look." Su Xingyuan took off his tactical watch with sarcasm in his tone. "Ask for help. If you encounter hundreds of enemies, hurry up." Followed by a coordinate. This request for help seemed like nothing, it was normal. If you encounter a strange beast, you will be defeated. But there is something wrong with the person who sent the message asking for help. Zhong'an, he still has the nerve to ask for help. Xuanyan and Zhao Juxin were unhappy. Li Ji caused more than 20 casualties in our team. Now he still has the nerve to ask for help. Bah! You deserve to die. Xuanyan cursed loudly, while Zhao Juxin nodded repeatedly. Including other people have the same attitude. The 4 veterans in the team hesitated for a moment and said, "Military regulations stipulate that you must go to the rescue if you need help. It would be a violation of military regulations not to provide support. The message has been sent out, and those guarding here must have received it." After saying that, he looked at Su Xingyuan. "Captain, can you save me?" Su Xingyuan's attitude is very important. Su Xingyuan did not answer, but looked at Chen Qi with questioning eyes. Chen Qi nodded. There are provisions in military regulations, and this is the attitude in this matter. Despite their outstanding performance in the recruit competition assessment, Chen Qi has even been selected into the talent plan. However, if they receive a call for help but do not go to rescue, the consequences of this incident are not something they can bear. It ranges from being abolished or expelled, to being directly killed on the spot. Although everyone has not fully recovered, they have recovered a lot. Su Xingyuan muttered. "Send the wounded back first for support." The sun is about to set and night falls. A team of more than 20 people rushed past like a gust of wind, rushing according to the coordinates on the tactical watch. Among the more than 20 figures, only Chen Qi was wearing black armor. It's like being independent from the entire team. He already knew the defensive power of Zan Wujia. When he encountered the 5 people of order before, the handsome young man who was an 8th-level warrior struck with all his strength and was unscathed. This gave him a clear understanding of the defensive power of the battle armor. Wu Lui once said that Zan martial armor can withstand a full blow from a warrior at the 9th level head-on. The night wind blew by, and Su Xingyuan's figure at the very front stopped. Everyone in the team stopped instantly. "Captain, what's wrong?" Xuanyan gasped slightly and looked around. Night had fallen, and more than 20 figures did not make any sound. After several battles, this team has quietly transformed. Su Xingyuan said nothing, and kept looking around with his eyes. Chen Qi narrowed his eyes, and there was a hint of shouting in the night wind. It's not going well. After the previous encounter, Su Xingyuan appeared to be very cautious. Their team itself suffered many casualties. Although everyone has recovered a lot now, it is still impossible to return to their peak in a short period of time. Walk. More than 20 figures disappeared from the place again. Ah! A 2nd-level warrior was knocked out by a strange beast and his sharp claws were shot out. An arm flew out instantly. Zhong'an was covered in blood, looking at the bloodthirsty beast in front of him with despair in his eyes. There are too many strange beasts, more than 60 of them. Among them, there are 4 7th-level warriors and 1 8th-level warrior. In a short period of time, the number of casualties in the entire team has reached more than 30. Such a large number of casualties has brought the entire team to the brink of collapse. If it weren't for a few veterans standing at the front, Zhong'an and his team might have all been wiped out at this moment. Zhong'an and others are located on the outskirts of Linggu County. It is surrounded by mountains and densely wooded. The mountains are rolling. In the valley, strange beasts roared and blood flew everywhere. When Operation Night Owl started, Shang Han had explained. There will be casualties in this operation. But no one would have thought that the real battlefield would come so quickly. Being besieged by the alien beasts, the entire team did not retreat. After a little panic, they quickly stabilized under the command of Zhang and several veterans in the team. As the first casualty appears, the expressions of everyone in the team changed. This was the first casualty in the battle. When the arms were roughly torn apart by the alien beasts, the smell of blood couldn't help but flow into everyone's nose. The alien beasts attacked everyone's defenses like crazy. Everyone could even smell the fishy smell in the mouth of the alien beast, as well as the blood and flesh on the teeth. "Captain, are we going to die?" Someone was shaking all over, and the hand holding the weapon was also shaking slightly. As soon as these words came out, despair appeared in everyone's eyes. "Shut up," Zhang gasped, his face pale, and he glanced around. 10 minutes had passed since he sent out the message asking for help. So far, no rescue team has appeared. More than 20 figures looked like ghosts in the night. Among the entire team, the one with the lowest strength is also at the second level of warrior. At a speed of 25 meters per second, with one step, he was already dozens of meters away. A 6th level warrior like Chen Qi can reach a speed of 45 meters per second. Su Xingyuan's thunder talent is also blessed with speed. A moment later, more than 20 figures appeared on a hillside. In the valley in front of them, strange beasts roared, and Zhang and others were unable to resist. After a quick glance, Chen Qi could see the strength of these strange beasts. The lowest is the 3rd level of warrior, and the strongest one reaches the 8th level of warrior. With the spear in his hand, thunder was swimming in his eyes, and thunder was surrounding his body. The spear was like a thunder dragon. Su Xingyuan's eyes flashed with thunder. The energy and blood in the body are boiling, and the whole person's state has reached its peak. Thunder. The spear flew out, tearing open the night and heading straight for the battlefield in the valley. Su Xingyuan bent his knees slightly, jumped up, followed the spear, and rushed to the battlefield. Zhang Ruya roared angrily, and with the gift of enhanced strength, she jumped up into the air, her body as strong as a humanoid beast. With a roar, it hit the battlefield in the valley. The rest of the people, filled with fighting spirit, followed the two men and galloped towards the battlefield. Chen Qi was the only one left on the hillside. In the hand, the black alloy longbow is slightly cool. Watching a team of more than 20 people rushing towards the battlefield, he stood on the hillside and slowly opened the longbow in his hand. From a high place, you can have an unobstructed view of the entire battlefield. The spear surrounded by thunder penetrated the head of a warrior's 3rd-level alien beast with powerful force, and its momentum continued unabated until it penetrated the body of the 2nd alien beast and plunged into the ground. Su Xingyuan was extremely fast. With one step, he was already more than 40 meters away. In just a few steps, he was already on the battlefield. The sudden appearance of everyone made the strange beasts on the battlefield roar. Several strange beasts rushed towards Su Xingyuan. Both sides were very fast, and in a short time there was only 100 meters left. Su Xingyuan's eyes were slightly focused, but his figure did not stop, as if he did not see the strange beast in front of him. 80 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. The sharp claws flashed with cold light, and strong wind came. Su Xingyuan still didn't stop. At the moment when the claws were about to fall on Su Xingyuan, a sharp cracking sound echoed in the valley. A silver arrow grazed Su Xingyuan's body and flew forward. The arrows were like sharp blades, easily tearing open the heads of the alien beasts, and then the momentum continued unabated, piercing through 3 alien beasts in a row. The alien beast that was originally blocked in front of Su Xingyuan was torn apart by this silver arrow, and a highway appeared in front of Su Xingyuan without any obstruction. Zhang and others saw it immediately when the spear, which was surrounded by thunder, cut through the night. When they saw Su Xingyuan, Zhang Ruya and others speeding towards the battlefield, their eyes suddenly lit up. There is help. Zhang saw Su Xingyuan as soon as he appeared on the battlefield. When he saw several strange beasts rushing towards Su Xingyuan, his eyes were filled with eagerness. Although Su Xingyuan was strong, the spear was stuck in the center of the battlefield at the moment. Without weapons, how could he possibly block several strange beasts? And when he saw Su Xingyuan galloping forward as if he was desperate for his life, he even shouted anxiously, "Su Xingyuan, you are crazy." Without weapons, Su Xingyuan's actions were tantamount to suicide. But the next second, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. A silver arrow was like a guardian following Su Xingyuan. Tear the alien beast in front of him to pieces in an incomparable manner. Chen Qi. This name came to Zhang An's mind. Only Chen Qi can have such ability. The scene in front of them deeply shocked everyone in Zhong'an. When several veterans in the team saw this scene, their eyes widened with disbelief. Trust. Incomparable trust. Su Xingyuan moved forward without hesitation, and the arrow passed by his body. It all felt like it had been rehearsed countless times. Everything happened naturally. Who is this? Such doubts arose in several people's minds. Reaching out and pulling out the spear, Su Xingyuan was filled with thunder. Thunder shot out from the tip of the spear, sending the beast flying in front of him, and the thunder fell on the head of the beast. Exploded with a bang. Die. Everyone was shocked by the cooperation of Su Xingyuan and Chen Qi. A roar sounded. Zhang Ruya, holding an alloy sledgehammer, looked like a humanoid beast. He violently smashed the strange beast in front of him away. The flesh and blood shattered, and the hard skull could not stop Zhang Ruya's blow. Kill. Several shouts filled with fighting spirit surged in the air. Wang Er, Zhao Juxin, Xuanyan and others were filled with fighting spirit. Joined the battlefield with fighting spirit. From a high place, Chen Qi's amber eyes were full of calm. Wearing a black war armor, the black alloy longbow in his hand seemed to be born from the underworld. Every time the bowstring trembled, a strange beast would be taken away. The silver arrows are like ghosts, always appearing from incredible angles. This scene completely shocked everyone. When did the alien beasts become so weak? Every attack from the alien beasts on the battlefield seems to be anticipated by the owner of the arrow. The arrow appeared in front of the alien beast's attack trajectory with great accuracy, and then the second or even third arrow appeared, pinning the alien beast to the ground. Archer. Extremely powerful archer. Ultimate battlefield control. What is an archer? This is what an archer is. This is the first time people from Zhang An's team have seen Chen Qi take action as an archer. As soon as he took action, everyone was deeply shocked. One person controls the entire battlefield. Everyone on the battlefield is within the coverage of his arrows. When danger arises, the silver arrows will always appear in front of you. At this moment, Chen Qi looked like a guardian to everyone. He does not need to appear, the silver arrow is his incarnation. Killing like crazy. Zhang An and the others never thought that killing strange beasts would be so easy. With the addition of Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan and others, the scale of victory has completely tilted towards Zhang An and the others. Buzz. Shoot the last arrow. Chen Qi reached out and took off the silver iron rod from his waist. The black alloy longbow fell behind him, and the silver iron rod in his hand turned into a silver gun. The silver spear was dazzling, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised as he looked at the remaining 8th level warrior beast on the battlefield. The whole person was like a shooting star, speeding towards the battlefield. The tip of the spear drew sparks on the ground, blood boiled, and fighting spirit filled the air. Since ancient times, archers have often fought in close combat. Archer. In everyone's eyes, this word is synonymous with combat assistance. No one thought that the archer could also be the protagonist. Melee combat is an archer's weakness, but this is not Chen Qi's weakness. From the moment he chose the spear skill, he had already planned an extremely clear path for himself. Who said an archer can only run away without a longbow? I just want to be this weirdo. Since ancient times, archers have been hanging on walls. Silver spear and black armor, passing by like a ghost. One step forward and you are already dozens of meters away. In the battlefield, the rock bear in the 8th level of warrior realm has strong defense and attack power. Several people tried to attack the weak point on his chest. The huge bear paws roared and instantly knocked away the people standing in front of him. The bones were broken and the face was as white as paper. Roar. The rock bear roared, transformed into a furious giant beast, and charged towards the people in front of him with an unrivaled attitude. Zhang Ruya roared angrily, her 2-meter-long body looking a little petite in front of Iwakuma. Filled with fighting spirit, he stood in front of Iwakuma and slammed the alloy sledgehammer into Iwakuma in front of him. Bang! Once the rock weighing nearly 8 tons starts running, it is unstoppable. Hitting its head with an alloy sledgehammer only slightly slowed down its momentum. Extremely strong defense, terrible power. With the blessing of these two, Iwakuma turned into a terrifying killing machine at this moment. Zhang Rui's body was knocked away, and after landing, she took 10 steps back. Every step left a deep footprint on the ground. He looked up at the rock bear in front of him, his face slightly changed, and there was surprise in his eyes. With the gift of strength enhancement, his strength doubled, but he still could not block Iwakuma's blow. The moment Zhang Rui was knocked away, a spear suddenly appeared surrounded by thunder. It slammed down towards Iwakuma. Boom! Thunder burst out, leaving a black mark on Iwakuma's body. The strength of the 5th-level warrior exploded with all its might. With one shot, Iwakuma was knocked to the ground. Dust and smoke are everywhere. Everyone around looked at Su Xingyuan's shot and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Old Zhang! Su Xingyuan shouted. Zhang Rui jumped up and slammed down the alloy sledgehammer in her hand. With a bang, Iwakuma's head was smashed into the ground. Stones flew. This scene is extremely violent. Iwakuma was knocked to the ground by the two men. His thick limbs pressed hard on the ground to resist the second wave of attacks from the two men. The rock-like hair on his body stood up slightly. A roar came from his mouth. The hair stood on end, and a pair of big eyes had now turned red. A violent aura emanates from the body. Su Xingyuan and Zhang Rui's eyes narrowed slightly. Among everyone present, only Su Xingyuan and Zhang Rui could stop the 8th-level warrior Yan Shang. The others were reduced to spectators at this moment. I can only watch the surrounding rocks floating around, surrounding the rock bear. Rock burst. Rock bear's special abilities. Spread. Many people don't know much about Iwakuma's ability, but a few veterans understand it very well. Rock Blast is most suitable for group attacks and rock manipulation, and has the same ability as the Wind Saber's Wind Blade. Hearing the shouts of several veterans, everyone retreated into the distance. In the field, Su Xingyuan and Zhang Rui remained motionless, standing in front of Yangxiang, with fighting intentions like a rainbow. The rocks floating around Iwakuma kept shaking, as if they were about to explode in the next second. Buzz! Silver gun flying shot. Just when countless rocks were about to explode, a black figure strode across the night. The silver gun in his hand turned into a stream of light and hit Iwakuma's body with a bang. Although the silver spear did not pierce Iwakuma's body, the huge force contained in it shook Iwakuma's body, and then he fell to the ground with a bang, and the surrounding rocks crashed to the ground. Lao Zhang, beat him. Chen Qi's voice sounded. Zhang Rui's eyes lit up. She took a step forward, raised the alloy sledgehammer high, and her arms were bulging like a horned dragon. Qi and blood are boiling in the body. Smash it down with all your strength. Su Xingyuan didn't hesitate. The thunder reappeared, and the tip of the gun suddenly appeared with lightning, which captured people's hearts. The thunder dragon roared, and a thick bolt of lightning shot out from the spear. For a moment, the spears burst out with thunder, and the sound of alloy sledgehammers hitting Iwakuma continued to sound. Kill you while you are sick. Su Xingyuan and Zhang Rui would naturally not let go of such an opportunity. Chen Qi jumped up high and then landed with a crash. Get the silver gun. Without any hesitation, after taking the silver gun, he looked like a ghost. In just a few steps, he was in front of Iwakuma. Boom! The alloy sledgehammer hit Iwakuma again, and a big crater appeared under Iwakuma on the ground. Under the continuous bombardment by Su Xingyuan and Zhang Rui, even though the rock bear's defense was amazing, it was a little too much at this moment. The rock bear roared in pain, and every hammer blow and thunder attack made it feel unprecedented pressure. It struggled hard, trying to stand up again. But every time, he would be knocked down by the spear in Su Xingyuan's hand and the alloy sledgehammer in Zhang Rui's hand. Zhang Rui was panting and her face was a little pale. His current strength is only at the 5th level. The head-on challenge to Iwakuma, the 8th-level warrior, made him consume more energy than ever before. In a short period of time, every time he took a shot was a full blow. Su Xingyuan on the side was in the same situation at the moment. The thunder wrapped around the spear became much weaker. Iwakuma's eyes were red. He resisted Zhang Rui's blow, roared angrily, and then slammed into him regardless. Zhang Rui's face changed slightly. At this moment, he was spending a lot of money and his speed was greatly reduced, trying to avoid the rock bear. Su Xingyuan raised his spear again and stood in front of Zhang Rui. Bang! The two figures were knocked out by the rock bear. The sudden change caused the expressions of everyone present to change drastically. Wang Er, Shui Nian and everyone else could no longer bear it and ran towards the two of them desperately. Help! Zhang An finally came to his senses at this moment and shouted anxiously. Bang! Chen Qi was faster than everyone else. The moment Shui Nian, Wang and others moved, they were already standing in front of Yan Shang. His eyes were slightly focused, and he turned the silver gun slightly in his hand, and then smashed it towards the rock bear in front of him. There was a muffled sound, and a trail of blood appeared on Iwakuma's body. He was knocked to the ground again. Chen Qi didn't stop moving, holding the silver gun on his back, dragging the silver gun straight towards Iwakuma. The silver spear thrust forward fiercely, and a bit of cold light arrived first. Kang! He blocked a shot with his claws. Chen Qi snorted coldly, and the hand holding the silver gun shook violently, and the force came from the soles of his feet and penetrated step by step. The extremely fierce force was transmitted to the tip of the spear. Iwakuma's claws were immediately struck by the tip of the spear and dropped downwards. At this moment, the tip of the spear that was still trembling suddenly straightened. The silver spear was like electricity, piercing into the white area of Iwakuma's chest. But when he had just entered within 3 inches, he was held by the rock bear's claws, with a pair of red eyes full of human panic. Can you block it? Chen Qi said in an indifferent voice, raising his foot and kicking the tail of the gun barrel. PFF'd. The silver spear passed through his chest and nailed him to the ground. The 8th level warrior, die. After this operation is over, you should be able to break through to the 7th level of a warrior, right? Zhang Ruya turned her head to look at Chen Qi beside her and asked with a smile. Su Xingyuan raised his eyebrows slightly. Chen Qi hesitated for a moment and nodded slightly. The energy and blood are still a little weak. With the resources this time, we should be able to break through to the 7th level. Zhang Ruya took a long breath and said with a sigh, Chen Qi, if I hadn't known that you were an E-level archer, I would have thought you were an S-level or even an SS-level archer. As for SSS, Zhang Ruya has never seen it. The 7th level of warrior. Zhang Ruya smiled helplessly. The speed at which my A-level talent can be cultivated is actually not as fast as that of Chen Qi, an E-level archer. Thinking that Chen Qi was about to break through to the 7th level and he was still a 5th level warrior, he wanted to make a call and ask for resources. Wang Er, Shui Nian, Zhao Juxin and others looked at each other and smiled bitterly after hearing what Chen Qi said. When they first joined the army, everyone felt that they were geniuses. Even if they were not geniuses, they could at least be at the forefront. Su Xingyuan's A-level thunder talent, Zhang Ruya's A-level strength enhancement, Zhao Juxin's A-level earth element, and Wang Er and others B-level and C-level. Animals. Hearing that Chen Qi was about to break through to the 7th level of warrior, Wang Er, Shui Nian and others looked at each other and complained in unison. Chen Qi smiled calmly. Resources, he was always lacking. From the previous recruit competition assessment to now, he has consumed a lot more resources than the second-class Wang. Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya are not counted. These two people consumed a lot of resources. Chen Qi saw that many of the resources they used cost a lot of money. 2 rich guys. Although the two of them didn't say anything, Chen Qi had already seen that the two of them were not simple. Zhang An walked behind, looking at Chen Qi and the others in front with complicated eyes. He was always dissatisfied with being defeated by Chen Qi, thinking that the reason why he was defeated by Chen Qi was all because of his carelessness. Tracking the strange beast, he fell into crisis. The appearance of Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan and others gave him hope again in his already despairing heart. He never thought that it would be Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan and the others who would come to rescue them when they were in dire straits. Su Xingyuan moved forward without hesitation. The arrow flew past his body, and the scene of clearing the obstacles in front of him still appeared in front of his eyes. He looked at Chen Qi and the others in front of him, his eyes full of complexity. Chen Qi's team is completely different from his own. One is to have unparalleled trust. One is panic in a desperate situation. Maybe I am really not as good as him. Zhang An sighed inwardly, smiling bitterly. Behind him, the eyes of several veterans also fell on Chen Qi and others. As they have experienced several battles, they have seen many new teams. But there has never been a rookie team that can bring them such a shock. Fighting spirit. Undying fighting spirit. Normally, Such a strong fighting spirit would never be found in a new team. But when they saw Chen Qi and his team, they were stunned for a moment. This team does not look like new recruits, but rather like a team that has gone through several battles. No fear, no fear, no shrinking. Some only have the indomitable momentum and the high-spirited fighting spirit. All of this was brought about by those three people. There is no doubt about Su Xingyuan's personal strength. His A-level thunder talent makes him appear like a god of thunder on the battlefield. After Zhang Rui's strength enhancement was turned on, it was like the reappearance of the god of war, and the alien beast howled in pain as the alloy sledgehammer was swung. But only Chen Qi. It was the biggest shock to them. Archer. No one thought that an archer could have such powerful lethality. One person can control the entire battlefield. The appearance of Chen Qi subverted their view of the archer's talent. Who said that archer talent can only be used as a combat support role? Silver spears and black armor came rushing in. When Chen Qi put down his longbow and wielded a silver spear to kill the 8th level warrior Rock Bear with great arrogance, there was only confusion in their eyes. Archers are not good at melee combat. Chen Qi's domineering execution told everyone present that archers were also good at close combat. And no weaker than others. The operation is over. All teams began to gather towards the garrison point in Linggu County. Gao Yu lowered his head and looked at the battle report in his hand for a while. This time, all the team battle reports of Operation Night Owl have appeared in his hands. Each team's battle loss ratio, each team's performance, personnel performance, everything is detailed. Second screening. The purpose is naturally to screen out the talents you need and try not to miss any talent. B level, C level. After flipping through it for a while, I saw that it was basically a B level or C level evaluation. Hey, this seems okay. Gao Yu raised his eyebrows slightly and showed a smile. The A level evaluation was enough to surprise him. Read on. Class B, Class A. After a moment, the battle report of Chen Qi and his team appeared in front of him. Team rating, S level. 23 casualties, 117 strange beasts killed. Gao Yu looked at the battle report in his hand and was stunned. A team of 50 people killed 117 beasts at the cost of only 23 casualties. A battle loss ratio of 5-1. He was slightly stunned, suppressing the shock in his heart, and his eyes fell on the name on the battle report. Su Xingyuan, Battlefield Performance, S. Zhang Ruya, Battlefield Performance, S. 2 consecutive S-level battlefield performances made Gao Yu's eyes widen. The battlefield performances of these two people were almost in the first echelon. He had seen recruit assessments many times, but there were very few S-level evaluations. Almost all performances that can be rated as S-level are true geniuses. These two people are pretty good. His eyes continued to look down, but in the next second, he was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. Chen Qi, Battlefield Performance, SS. Wu Sao, double S rating. The S-level performances of Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya were enough to surprise him. But then he was given an SS-level performance evaluation. Has the battle report been out yet? Wei Yun walked in from the door, looked at Gao Yu who was stunned on the spot, and asked aloud. Gao Yu came back to his senses and felt his throat was dry. He swallowed, the shock in his eyes not dissipating. He nodded and replied, "It's out." "Show me." Wei Yun took the battle report handed over by Gao Yu. After turning over it a little, his face looked a little ugly. "Why are there so many Class B and below?" Gao Yu opened his mouth but did not speak, but handed the other battle reports in his hand to Wei Yun. A level. Wei Yun raised his eyebrows slightly and said calmly, "Not bad." S level. Continuing to read, a battle report with an S level evaluation suddenly appeared in front of me. "Are you sure you got it right?" Wei Yun raised his head with a serious expression and a serious tone. He had just seen that the evaluation of the team with his 2 S-level talents was only A level. As far as he knew, the strongest person in this operation was only the S-level talent. Neither team with 2 S-level talents achieved S-level performance. Now you said someone got S-level battle report performance. Gao Yu shook his head and said without hesitation, "Yes, the battle report is very clear." Wei Yun's eyelids twitched and he lowered his head to look at the names of the personnel on the battle report in his hand. Team rating, S level. 23 casualties, 117 strange beasts killed. Su Xingyuan, Battlefield Performance, S. Zhang Ruya, Battlefield Performance, S. Chen Qi, Battlefield Performance, SS. Chen Qi. Wei Yun suddenly felt that the name was familiar. The next second he looked up at Gao Yu and asked aloud, "Is he from Shanghan?" Gao Yu nodded. Just as he was about to speak, Shanghan and other commanders of the recruit company walked into the room. SS rating. Wei Yun looked at Shanghan who walked into the room, his eyes filled with resentment. "The battle report is out." Seeing the battle report in Wei Yun's hand, everyone asked with a smile. Wei Yun nodded slightly, with complicated eyes, and handed the battle report in his hand to everyone, and then said to Shanghan like a resentful woman, "Just hide yourself." Shanghan was stunned by Wei Yun's sudden movement. "It's inexplicable, maybe this kid is itchy." Before he could think about it carefully, an exclamation sounded. S-class battle report. When they saw the battle report in their hands, everyone couldn't help but exclaimed. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. S level. Hearing the exclamations from everyone, Shanghan ignored Wei Yun's resentful eyes and strode away. "Let me see." Among everyone present, he and Wei Yun were the only two in the Wuzong realm. Two aliens. One person came to his senses and handed the battle report to Shanghan. Looking through the battle report in his hand, Shanghan looked calm. B-level and C-level evaluations seemed normal to him. His expression remained unchanged and he continued to look down. It wasn't until he saw the S-class battle report that shocked everyone that his calm expression finally changed. Surprise flashed across his eyes. "You're really hiding it, kid." Wei Yun came to Shanghan at some point and said through gritted teeth. Listening to the resentment in Wei Yun's tone, Shanghan said without raising his head, "Don't act like a little wife. When others saw me, they thought I hit you again." "Ha," Wei Yun chuckled. "Do you really think you can beat me? I used to let you." "Really?" Shanghan turned his head to look at him, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and said in a calm voice, "And then you were hung up and beaten by me in the army competition." Wei Yun's expression changed, he glanced around and lowered his voice. "Ji Ba, can you please stop talking about this?" "Oh." Shanghan nodded and raised his voice, "So you let me." Wei Yun covered Shanghan's mouth and said through gritted teeth, "Stop talking, Wu Sao." Shanghan had a smile in his eyes. "Brother, you are really my eldest brother. I am not as good as you, so stop talking." "Okay." Shanghan nodded, and Wei Yun took his hand away. The two of them no longer struggled with this matter, but instead focused on the S-class battle report in their hands. "Tell me honestly, Chen Qijin is an E-level talent, not S, or even SS." There was doubt in Wei Yun's tone. He was an S-level talent in the Wuzong realm and was shocked by Chen Qi's training speed and performance. He knew the speed of S-level training very well. Chen Qi's performance has far exceeded the scope of E-level talent, almost comparable to SS. As for higher SSS, he hadn't thought about it. SSS level talents come to the army. Can you hold on after eating enough? The goal of that group of geniuses is not the top martial arts universities. In Wudali, there are resources, martial arts skills, and strong men as teachers. The most important thing is that you don't need to stand on the front line like you are in the army. Moreover, once SSS talent is revealed, how many people will rush to accept him as a student? There were many strong people in his S-level class who wanted to take him as students. Guess. Putting down the battle report in his hand and thinking about the genius plan, Shanghan smiled and did not answer the question. It's not that he doesn't want to answer, it's just that he is unsure. Do you want me to guess? Wei Yun curled his lips and said, just hide it. With his behavior like this, how long do you think you can hide him? Sooner or later it will be snatched away. Shanghan's answer made Wei Yun very unhappy, and there was a sour taste in his words. Can't take it away. My teacher has already planned to accept him. Wei Yun was slightly stunned, unable to realize who the teacher Shanghan was talking about. But the next second, his expression changed. With an expression of disbelief, he asked in surprise, it can't be that one, right? Shanghan asked back, what's the problem? Hiss. Wei Yun's eyes widened at first, and then he was like a deflated rubber ball, with a disappointed tone. My family once took me to worship the king of martial arts Zhang Zesheng as my disciple. But I failed to live up to expectations and was not favored by King Wu. He grabbed Shang Han's arm and said with excitement in his voice, "Can you let me go with you then?" The only arrow god in China. Shang Han frowned and coughed lightly. "Speak politely and don't use bad words." Wei Yun became even more excited. "You know nothing. You are a student of the god of arrow. Of course you are not excited." 100 miles away, 3 arrows killed a foreign martial lord. When he said this, his expression was full of reverence. The strongest archer talent in the Chinese nation, he crossed a large realm and shot a powerful foreigner in the Wahou realm. This battle established Zhang Zi's reputation as the holy arrow god. The talent of China's #1 archer. What kind of bad luck did Chen Qi have? I'm not sure. Wei Yun became more and more excited as he spoke. He didn't notice an old man walking slowly into the room. The originally noisy sounds in the room suddenly became quiet. Among the people present, no one did not recognize the old man in front of him. Shang Han bowed slightly to the old man with a respectful expression. Wei Yun was still salivating. Rainbow farts were constantly shot, and he was talking about every battle Zhang Zesheng had ever had. "Shang Han, you must take me to meet the god of arrow. That old man is so handsome. He is my idol and I am his big fan." As Wei Yun spoke, he turned to look at Shang Han. When he saw the old man in front of him, his eyes widened with disbelief on his face, and he was speechless. "Hello, Xiaowei." Zhang Zesheng smiled gently, without any military temperament in his body, but with an air of elegance. "Arrow god." Wei Yun's face was full of excitement, standing in front of Zhang Zesheng like a good student. He looked very reserved, and he still looked like he was spitting like before. He didn't expect Zhang Zesheng to know him. "You still remember me? I came here to worship as a disciple before." "Ha." Zhang Zesheng smiled and waved his hand, looked at him in front of him, and nodded slightly. "The strength is pretty good, at the Wuzong level." Wei Yun smiled sheepishly and waved his hand. Zhang Zesheng smiled and said, "Of course I remember you. Your grandfather Wei Zhengjun and I have been friends for decades." Wei Yun opened his mouth and wanted to say that he was not accepted as a student by you. "Is the battle report out? Let me take a look." Zhang Zesheng said no more, but looked at Shang Han. "It's out," Shang Han said as he handed the battle report in his hand to Zhang Zesheng. Zhang Zesheng looked indifferent and looked at the battle report in his hand. When he saw the only S-class battle report, a flash of surprise flashed across his eyes, and then he continued to read. Su Xingyuan, Battlefield Performance, S. Zhang Ruya, Battlefield Performance, S. Chen Qi, Battlefield Performance, SS. At the top of the battle report, the battlefield performance of the 3 people was very impressive. There was silence in the room. There was only the sound of breathing. After a while, Zhang Zesheng put down the battle report in his hand. A gentle voice said, "When will the operation end?" "In an hour. I'll meet this little guy later." "Good teacher." When the battle report came out, the commander of the Beast Suppression Army had already appeared at the garrison point. The garrison shrouded in darkness. The team participating in Operation Night Owl returned to the garrison point. Before Operation Night Owl started, it was already said that there was no guarantee of safety and it was a complete actual combat. Casualties follow every team. Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan, and Zhang Ruya were walking in front, watching a team returning to the garrison point. Every team had casualties. The original 50-person team had so many casualties that there were almost only 10 people left. There were only a dozen casualties. The 3 people's eyes swept over each team, feeling pain, helplessness, confusion, excitement. Everyone's look is different. Looking at the team passing by, everyone felt a little heavy. In this Operation Night Owl, Chen Qi and his team suffered more than 20 casualties, almost half of the battle loss ratio. Cruel. For the first time, Chen Qi truly realized the true meaning of this word. Having never joined the army, he never thought that while the people in the rear were living and working in peace and contentment, the army standing in the front could be so cruel. A small beast tide cost each team so much. Then how terrifying must the beast tide that cost the 3rd Legion a lot of money be? 10,000 people, or 20,000, or more. The look on Chen Qi's face fell into Zhang Ruya's eyes, and he said softly, "Chen Qi, this is war. Death is necessary. Alien beasts are raging, and someone has to stand up. Luckily, I'm one of them." When she said this, Zhang Ruya's eyes were full of light and she looked a little proud. Looking sideways, Su Xingyuan didn't speak, but his eyes told Chen Qi that he felt the same way. Chen Qi lowered his eyes, looked at the team passing by, and said with emotion. To be honest, I never felt proud of joining the army before. When I was still in Wuhan University, everyone's goal was to get into Wuhan University, and joining the army was not an option they considered. I was forced to join the army. On the bus, an aunt once told me that it is an honor to join the army. You may not believe it when I say it. At that time, I thought this sentence was just a polite word. But today, I seem to really feel the word glory. Zhang Ruya and Su Xingyuan chuckled together as they listened to Chen Qi's emotional words. Su Xingyuan said, "There is always someone who wants to be a hero, why can't it be you or us?" Wang Xuanyan and others listened to the conversation and said with a smile, "How glorious a hero is." Zhao Juxin nodded. My family's conditions are not good, and the people there are not rich enough, but when I heard that I wanted to join the army, uncles, aunts, grandfathers, and grandmothers that I know and don't know line up to deliver food to my family. From that moment on, I understood the meaning of joining the army. As he said that, he looked at everyone and asked with a smile, "What do you think my biggest wish is?" What? Everyone was confused and looked at Zhao Juxin. My biggest wish is that my family is safe. Nonsense, who is not? Xuanyan scolded with a smile, and hit Zhao Juxin's chest with his blood-stained fist. Zhao Juxin didn't care about the slight pain in his chest, but continued, "Also, I want to open a separate page on our family tree." Wang Xuanyan and others blurted out, looked at Zhao Juxin who was a little embarrassed, and said contemptuously, "You are also talking nonsense. I also want to create a separate page on our family tree. We also need to write on it, who and so made great military exploits for how long, killed many and many strange beasts, and became a hero of the country. As soon as future generations see this single page of the genealogy, they will remember me for generations to come." Listening to Xuanyan's somewhat outrageous words, everyone could no longer hold back and spoke out one after another. "Xuanyan, don't even think about it. With your strength, the most I can do is mention you in the corner of your family tree. How dare you think about it, you Hundan? Today I dare to open a single page of the genealogy, and tomorrow I dare to enter the county annals. Bah, is it your turn to get this opportunity? I'll be the first one to do it. Don't even think about this opportunity. Leave it to me, I'm more awesome." Xuanyan's words caused everyone to laugh and curse. Listening to everyone's laughter and scolding, Zhao Juxin and Xuanyan couldn't help but laugh out loud. This is an honor that belongs to the entire family. As for greater honors, the two of them had never thought about it. Such an honor is no longer something they can imagine with their talent and strength. At least he should be like Zhang Zesheng before, killing Marquis Wu with 3 arrows. Let's go and see those injured unfortunates. Everyone joked and walked towards the injured area. Zhang An's eyes were complicated. He envied the atmosphere of Chen Qi's team. Laughing and playing without any scruples. On the battlefield, never flinch. When Su Xingyuan was in deep danger, Zhang Ruya, Wang Xuanyan, Zhao Juxin and other team members wanted to save him as if they didn't care about their lives. This scene shocked him deeply. Seeing this scene, he realized that there was a gap between their team and Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya after all. He even believed that if on the battlefield, whether it was Chen Qi or other team members, when they were in deep danger, everyone would make the same choice. Comrades, trust. These 2 words kept lingering in his mind. Chen Qi, I'm not as good as you. At this moment, Zhang An completely let go of his resentment. Hu Zhaofang, the commander of the 3rd Legion of the Beast-Suppressing Army, is in the Wahou realm. When he walked into the room, everyone was silent. Although there was no sharp aura on his body, it still caused a sharp increase in pressure on everyone present. In the Wahou realm, this is already a well-deserved strong man. Unlike Zhang Zesheng, Hu Zhaofang has a strong military temperament. His serious expression was completely opposite to Zhang Zesheng's elegant aura. Commander, commander, commander. The moment they saw Tiger Roaring Peak, everyone in the room stood up and raised their hands in salute. He glanced at everyone, and when he saw Zhang Zesheng, who looked like a scholar, he couldn't help but smile. Senior brother. Zhang Zesheng glanced at Hu Zhaofeng, as if he didn't hear anything, and still looked down at the information in his hand. Hu Zhaofeng looked a little embarrassed. He nodded slightly to Shang Han and others, then came to Zhang Zesheng's side and asked curiously, "Brother, what are you looking at?" "Junior brother, help you take a look." This scene made Shang Han and others want to laugh but did not dare to laugh, and felt uncomfortable. "Do you understand?" Zhang Zesheng raised his head, looked at Hu Zhaofeng standing beside him, and said disdainfully, "Hey, senior brother, I'm still in the Wahou realm, how can there be something I can't understand?" Hu Zhaofeng doesn't look like a military commander at this moment. In front of Zhang Zesheng, it was like going back to the past, when he was still the naughty junior brother. "Go away." Zhang Zesheng laughed angrily at Hu Zhaofeng's shameless appearance. He said angrily, "You are already dozens of years old, can't you be more stable?" "Haha, what senior brother said, it's not like you don't know what my temper is." As Hu Zhaofeng said, he pulled a chair next to Zhang Zesheng and stretched his head to look at the information in his hand. "Hey, senior brother, you. Brother, you." When he saw the information in Zhang Zesheng's hand, Hu Zhaofeng raised his eyebrows and opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but when he saw a sharp look in Zhang Zesheng's eyes, he finally swallowed his words. Withdrawing his gaze, Zhang Zesheng said with a sense of distance in his tone, "You'd better stay out of my business." The feeling of closeness to Hu Zhaofeng that he had at the beginning was gone in his words. Looking at the senior brother who was looking down at the information, Hu Zhaofeng's eyes flashed with a hint of unbearability, and he hesitated for a long time. "Senior brother, why bother? Decades have passed, why can't you let go? Go, go, go." Zhang Zesheng waved his hand, not wanting to continue this topic with Hu Zhaofeng. Hu Zhaofeng sighed slightly and stopped talking about this topic. "Let him be. Change the topic. Senior brother, why do you want to come here this time?" Zhang Zesheng raised his head, folded the materials in his hands, and his eyes fell on Shang Han, returning to his elegant and gentle appearance again. "Xiao Shang introduced me to someone, let me take a look." "Huh." Hu Zhaofeng looked confused, looked at Shang Han, and asked with a smile, "Xiao Shang, is it possible that there are any good talents in this batch of recruits?" Facing Hu Zhaofeng, a strong man in the Wahou realm, Shang Han looked serious, performed a military salute, and then replied, "Commander, the recruits did find some good ideas this time. The person the teacher just mentioned is one of these new recruits." "Where's the information? Let me take a look." It was enough for Zhang Zesheng to see the new recruits in person, which was enough to attract his attention. While talking, Shang Han had already handed the information about Chen Qi's team to Hu Zhaofeng. Everyone's personal profile, 2 battlefield performances, overall evaluation, everything is detailed. He looked through the personal information of Chen Qi, Su Xingyuan and Zhang Ruya in his hands. A-level Thunder, A-level Strength Enhancement. Why do you still have an E-level Archer talent? Hu Zhaofeng let out a sigh, looked up at Zhang Zesheng, and asked in confusion. "Senior brother, which of these 2 do you plan to recruit?" "2. What 2? Zhang Zesheng glanced at Hu Zhaofeng and said calmly, "Only 1." Hu Zhaofeng nodded slightly and thought for a while, this little guy named Su Xingyuan has good talent. He is an A-level Thunderbolt, and his speed of increasing strength is not bad. It's not bad. It's his good fortune to be accepted as a student by senior brother." Shang Han opened his mouth and wanted to explain. Zhang Zesheng rolled his eyes and said angrily, "Who said I would take away the Thunder talent? Oh, could it be Zhang Ruya? This little guy's talent is pretty good, but he just hasn't reached S level." "Shut up, please." Zhang Zesheng was confused. "The one I want to collect is the 3rd one." "Huh." Hu Zhaofeng glanced down at the information in his hand, looked stunned, looked up at Zhang Zesheng, and asked in surprise, "Senior brother, you are not going to accept this little guy with an E-level talent, are you?" "Yes." Zhang Zesheng nodded and said unhappily, "What's the problem?" "No. Senior brother." Hu Zhaofeng suddenly became anxious and glanced at Shang Han and others. "You guys go out first." "Yes." After Shang Han, Wei Yun and others left, Hu Zhaofeng looked at Zhang Zesheng with concern in his eyes. "Brother, what are you doing? Don't give up. I've already heard that there may be something from the alien race that can heal your injuries." Zhang Zesheng's face turned dark after hearing Hu Zhaofeng's words. The next second, Hu Zhaofeng was kicked, causing Hu Zhaofeng's figure to shake. He became more and more certain of his suspicions. Senior brother, please don't give up. Even if I die, junior brother, I will definitely find something that can cure your injury. Zhang Zesheng was really angry and laughed this time. He raised his hand and pointed at Tiger Roaring Peak, unable to speak for a long time. Who the hell said you were giving up? Zhang Zesheng cursed loudly. His original elegant and easygoing appearance disappeared, replaced by a fierce aura. I'm not going to die, what you said is all bullshit. Hu Zhaofeng's expression froze, and he smiled awkwardly. He came close to Zhang Zesheng and asked with a smile, Senior brother, are you really not here to explain the funeral arrangements? Get out of here. Zhang Zesheng did not give Hu Zhaofeng a good look. Hu Zhaofeng was not angry and continued to ask with a smile, Senior brother, you just said you wanted to recruit that little guy with E-level talent. Were you kidding? Who are you kidding? Zhang Zesheng took the battle report on the side and threw it to Hu Zhaofeng, see for yourself. After receiving the battle report, Hu Zhaofeng glanced at Zhang Zesheng doubtfully and saw that he really didn't mean to joke, so he looked at the battle report in his hand. Huh, he said softly. His eyes fell on a line written on the battle report in his hand. Chen Qi, Battlefield Performance, SS. This is. Hu Zhaofeng suddenly raised his head, his eyes full of surprise. SS level battlefield performance. Look down. Zhang Zesheng stood up, stretched his body slightly, picked up the water glass on the side, took a sip, and said lightly. The surprise in Hu Zhaofeng's eyes did not dissipate, he lowered his head and continued to look down. Team Battle Report. 23 casualties, 117 strange beasts killed. After reading the entire battle report, Hu Zhaofeng was breathing heavily. He hesitated for a moment, and then said with a smile, Senior brother, I want to discuss something with you. How about letting Chen Qi be my student? Ha! Zhang Zesheng sneered and said lightly, do you think I can't deal with you now that I'm in the martial spirit realm? Cough. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that you are not sick. You might as well have a good rest. Teaching students is hard work. Junior brother, I am willing to bear the hard work for you. Hu Zhaofeng is extremely shameless, and there is no way he looks like the commander of an army. He clearly looks shameless. Zhang Zesheng didn't bother to talk to him. I'm already planning to accept Chen Qi. Senior brother. Hu Zhaofeng stood up, walked to Zhang Zesheng, and said in a serious tone, there are too many things involved in the talent plan. You also know how many people you have offended over the years, and they cannot deal with you. But once Chen Qi becomes your student and enters the talent plan, he will definitely be suppressed by those people. Listening to Hu Zhaofeng's words, Zhang Zesheng narrowed his eyes, and a faint murderous intent flashed away. I don't care if you attack Chen Qi normally. You can't make a weapon if you don't polish it. But if they want to use dirty tricks, then I don't mind killing a few of them to show them whether I can no longer pull the long bow. Hu Zhaofeng's eyelids twitched wildly. His expression changed slightly. Others didn't know who Zhang Zesheng was, but he knew it very well. Although Zhang Zesheng looks elegant and easygoing now, this is what he wants people to see. Once he pulls off the elegant words, the Zhang Zesheng hidden behind will definitely make those people tremble. A person who was once one step away from the Wahou realm, if it were not for the sudden death of his former friend, I am afraid that Zhang Zesheng would have already become the Wahou realm, or even stronger. Okay, let's go and see that little guy. The murderous intention disappeared in a flash, and Zhang Zesheng returned to his elegant and easygoing appearance again. Hu Zhaofeng looked complicated, sighed slightly, and nodded. The two walked outside. Gather. A loud voice sounded. Each team in the garrison point came to the square. All teams have suffered casualties, and the number of people standing here today is only less than 60% of what they were when they arrived. Everyone's expressions were no longer as high-spirited as they had been when they arrived. Chen Qi glanced at the surrounding teams with a somewhat complicated expression. He knew many of them. Zhang and others, as well as other teams. At this time, the night had quietly fallen, and the figures on the square were swaying, but within a short time, everyone had gathered. After nearly 2 months, everyone has the basic qualities to become a qualified warrior. There was total silence in the team, except for the sound of the night wind. Su Xingyuan and Chen Qi looked at each other, with questions in their eyes. Then he looked away. Zhang Ruya's eyes flashed with excitement. After a while, footsteps sounded. Following the sound, Shang Han, Wei Yun and other new recruits and company commanders walked toward the crowd. When he walked to Chen Qi and others, Shang Han slowed down slightly, nodded to Chen Qi and others, and then continued forward. Wei Yun, who was walking beside him, looked at the three of them for a moment, and finally returned to Chen Qi. He smiled and nodded, gave him a thumbs up, then caught up with Shang Han and strode forward. Do you know him? Su Xingyuan looked at Chen Qi and asked with eyes open. Chen Qi was slightly stunned and shook his head. How could he know Wei Yun? Among this group of people, he only knew Shang Han. Zhang Ruya's eyes flashed, and Shang Han nodded towards him invisible. Wei Yun smiled brilliantly, winked at him, and then left with a smile. Only Chen Qi noticed this scene. The corner of his mouth raised slightly. Zhang Ruya, this kid. What does this mean? Is there any follow-up action? Xuan Yan said quietly to Wang Er. Wang Er was stunned for a moment and shook his head, indicating that he didn't know either. Not far away, Wu Luyi's figure appeared. He walked straight to Chen Qi and others, looked at the people standing upright in front of him, smiled and patted Chen Qi on the shoulder, glanced at everyone, and said with a smile, "You guys performed well this time." Smiles appeared on everyone's faces. Xuan Yan had a rather laid-back temperament and asked with a smile, "Squad leader, if you perform so well, why don't you get a reward?" Wu Lui smiled mysteriously and said meaningfully, "There are rewards, but I'm afraid you won't cry when the time comes." How can I cry if there is a reward? Is it possible that I can be asked to kill the strange beasts in the martial arts realm? Xuan Yan raised his head and said with a smile, "You'll find out later." Wu Lui said no more, smiled and nodded to everyone, and then walked away. Why are all the squad leaders here? Chen Qi was a little confused. Operation Night Owl involved the entire recruits of the beast-suppressing army. On such an important occasion, a position like Wu Lui's was obviously not good enough, but he actually appeared here. The meaning of this may be a bit confusing. Su Xingyuan raised his eyebrows slightly, and a look of thought flashed in his eyes. Seeing the confusion between the two people, Zhang Ruya thought for a while and said softly, "I guess there might be a strong person coming." Huh. Zhang Ruya's voice fell into the ears of the two of them. After the two of them looked at each other, they felt like they suddenly realized something. Just when everyone is guessing. In the distance, two figures approached. A gentle and elegant person with a gentle smile on his face. The other one, wearing a military uniform, stood upright and had a strong military temperament. When everyone in the square saw Hu Zhaofang in military uniform, all eyes fell on him. There was a sparkle in his eyes. His expression was full of excitement. Commander. The military ranks on Hu Zhaofang's shoulders clearly told everyone his identity. Major General. Wang Er exclaimed, his face full of disbelief. Zhao Juxin, Xuan Yan and others stared blankly at Hu Zhaofang and Zhang Zesheng walking from a distance. Why did a night owl operation and a tide of small beasts alert the Major General? Is it possible that there is a Major General's son in the team? But it doesn't seem like he's right. Could it be his grandson? Xuan Yan looked at his teammates next to him suspiciously and asked quietly, "What is the name of the commander of our beast suppression army?" Hu Zhaofang, you don't know this. When we were in the recruit company, it was posted on the wall. Ren Jianming answered casually, then realized something was wrong, turned around and asked, "Why do you ask?" Xuan Yan asked again, "Have you ever heard that there are people named Hu among the recruits?" As soon as these words came out, Ren Jianming was stunned. Before he could speak, Wang Er whispered, "With the strength of the army commander, do you think he can hear you?" Holy shit, I forgot. Xuan Yan's expression changed and he didn't dare to say another word. Major General. Xuan Yan and the others were located a little further away from Chen Qi and the others, so the three of them did not hear what they just said. Su Xingyuan was stunned, looking at Hu Zhaofang walking in the distance in surprise, his tone full of doubts. Zhang Ruya explained aloud. The Chinese National Army stipulates that strong men with the rank of Major General or at least the King of Wuhan hold the position of Army Commander. Su Xingyuan was stunned and looked at Chen Qi. You know all this? In China, basically everything about the military is kept confidential, including the strength possessed by military ranks and the positions they hold. Ah, Zhang Ruya was surprised. You haven't seen it? What? There is an introduction on the wall at the bottom of the dormitory of the recruit company. Have you? Chen Qi and Su Xingyuan looked slightly stunned. For a moment, they didn't know whether they really hadn't seen it or if they had forgotten it. Aren't you curious who is the one walking with our commander? Zhang Ruya's eyes were full of doubts. This is the beast-suppressing army, and there is no one except soldiers. The old man who can walk with the military commander has no military temperament in his body. On the contrary, he is more like a scholar. He is not a soldier, so how can he join the army? Looking at the way the two of them were walking, Hu Zhaofeng seemed to be a little afraid of the old man. Such a discovery made Zhang Ruya even more curious about the old man's identity. Chen Qi and Su Xingyuan's eyes fell on the old man. In the distance, Zhang Zesheng and Hu Zhaofeng were chatting about the talent plan when they suddenly felt a few glances. He turned his head to look, and when he saw Chen Qi, he smiled gently and nodded slightly to him. Chen Qi was slightly stunned. What does this mean? The old man smiled inexplicably. When the three of them saw Zhang Zesheng and Hu Zhaofeng looking at each other, they quickly averted their gazes and stood there obediently, not daring to make any more moves. There is at least 100 meters between the two sides. From such a long distance, one can easily feel the gazes of several of them. The expressions of several people changed and their hearts beat faster. Strong. Super strong. The martial king realm is actually so strong. This was the first time that Chen Qi and Su Xingyuan felt the terror of the strong. Just a look without murderous intent can be easily sensed. If he had ill intentions towards Hu Zhaofeng and Zhang Zesheng, he might have been killed from the air before he could take action. They had no doubt that it was possible. Martial King Realm. So scary. On the high platform, Hu Zhaofeng waved his hand and refused the chairs provided by Shang Han and others. Shang Han, Wei Yun and others stood under the stage, looking up at Tiger Roaring Peak on the stage, their eyes full of perseverance and reverence. In the square, it was extremely quiet. The moon is like a bow, and the light it sheds is mixed with a hint of coldness in the extremely silent square. Chen Qi's eyes fell on Zhang Zesheng, who was standing not far away. There have always been doubts in my mind. From the moment he saw himself, this old man had been constantly looking at himself. He looked a little creepy. He was even thinking that this old man could be Li Ji's backer. But in the next second, he threw this absurd conjecture out of his mind. Are you kidding me? Someone who can walk with Hu Zhaofeng is definitely not of low status. Even if Li Yinyan is in the Wuzong realm, he definitely doesn't have the strength to get in touch with a powerful person of this status. Not far away, Zhang Zesheng had a good impression of Chen Qi. However, he will not know the specific details until he comes down. Now, let's wait for Hu Zhaofeng to finish speaking. Wearing a military uniform, Hu Zhaofeng had a serious face, and his calm eyes scanned everyone under the high platform. The beast-suppressing army has a history of more than 140 years since its establishment. Hu Zhaofeng's voice was not loud, but it could be heard by everyone present. In the past 140 years, the beast suppression army has experienced countless battles and repelled countless beast tides. Generation after generation of ancestors have been sacrificed. Everyone present could not help but look serious when they heard the seriousness in Hu Zhaofeng's tone. From the moment you put on the military uniform, your identity has quietly changed. You are no longer ordinary people, but have become warriors standing in front of them. This military uniform is not easy to put on. Once you put it on, you will take over the responsibility of protecting it. Having said this, he paused and said in a low tone, just 6 months ago, the Third Army had just defended a large-scale beast tide, causing 58,000 casualties. And such large beast tides occurred a total of 478 times in just 100 years. Listening to the numbers coming out of Hu Zhaofeng's mouth, everyone present felt their hearts tighten. Even if only 58,000 people died each time, 478 times would be more than 27 million people. And this is only the number of casualties of the suppressing beast army. There are 3 major legions in the Huasha kingdom, and each legion has 3 armies. For example, under the 3rd legion, there are the suppressing beast army, the suppressing Yu army, and the suppressing Zan army. Such figures are jaw-dropping. Hu Zhaofeng raised his hand and pointed at the military uniforms worn by everyone. The efforts of generations have made us what we are today. This military uniform is your glory. I hope that one day in the future, you will truly understand the true meaning of this military uniform. After saying that, his eyes fell on Shang Han. Announcing the evaluation of each team in Operation Night Owl, the first place will be rewarded with 1,000 chi and blood pills, 1,000 alien beast crystal cores, 50 spirit crystals, and 1,000 merit points. Boom! Hu Zhaofeng's words exploded in everyone's mind. 1,000 chi and blood pills, 1,000 alien beast crystal nuclei. There are also precious spiritual crystals and 1,000 merit points. Such rewards can be called luxurious. Shang Han took one step forward and stood on the high platform, his eyes sweeping over everyone present. He said in a deep voice, "We will now announce the evaluation of each team. There are a total of 20 teams with C-level evaluation, and they are as follows. A C-level rating is the worst rating possible. As the names of each team were announced, everyone in the team whose name was called looked very ugly. In this Operation Night Owl, some people killed only 5 or 6 strange beasts in total. What's more, when encountering strange beasts, there was chaos. This shouldn't be done. The first recruit competition assessment was actually a precaution for this Operation Night Owl. With the previous experience, such a situation must not happen again when encountering a strange beast again. Soon, Class C and Class B were announced. It's the team's turn to be rated A level. A team with an A-level evaluation is enough to attract the attention of the commanders of the beast-suppressing army. There are a total of 11 teams with A-level evaluations, namely, Thunder Team, Storm Team, Flame Team, Ice and Fire Team. 11 teams were rated A-level. Among hundreds of teams, an A-level rating is enough to make people proud. Everyone in the team that was called was full of excitement. Among them are the 2S-level talents that Wei Yun mentioned before. The two were on the same team and performed very well this time. The two of them were also very excited when they heard that their team was rated A-level. As far as they knew, among this batch of recruits, the two talents were already unique. With a team with 2S-level talents, first place can be easily won. In fact, everyone thought that the first place would be among these 11 teams. Everyone is waiting for Shang Han to announce who will be the first among these 11 teams. Wei Yun sighed slightly, he could see all the expectations in everyone's eyes. These 2S-level talents were obtained by him using certain authority. I thought that this team under his command would definitely win first place during Operation Night Owl. But who knew, there would be fierce people out there. At this moment, Shang Han only had a single battle report left in his hand. He looked at Chen Qi and his team, and then slowly announced the first place winner of this Night Owl operation. This time, he did not directly announce the team's evaluation as before. Instead, the announcement begins with personnel evaluation. Su Xingyuan, Operation Night Owl rating, S level. Zhang Ruya, Operation Night Owl rating, S level. Zhao Juxin, Operation Night Owl evaluation, A level. Wang Er, evaluation of Operation Night Owl. At this moment, only the last person's evaluation is left unannounced. Chen Qi, evaluation of Operation Night Owl. Before he could continue, several figures hurried over with eager expressions on their faces. Shang Han stopped talking. This is the person responsible for cleaning up the battlefield for Operation Night Owl. I saw one of them come to Hushao Peak, first performed a military salute, then walked to Shang Han, performed another military salute, and whispered a few words in his ear. Shang Han raised his eyebrows and his expression changed slightly. He nodded. I know, let's deal with it first. After saying that, regardless of everyone in the audience, he came to Hu Xiaopeak and told the news that the man just said. After hearing this, Hu Zhaofeng narrowed his eyes slightly, nodded, and said nothing. Return to the high platform. An aura arose from Shang Han's body. As soon as the aura unique to the Wuzong realm appeared, except for a few people, everyone's heartbeats could not help but accelerate. A voice sounded. I just received important news. There are people who have made significant contributions in this Operation Night Owl. I like people like this very much. Even the military commander also likes it. In the audience, Chen Qi narrowed his eyes slightly, he had already guessed it. The few people he killed were obviously discovered by those who were cleaning up the battlefield. Was Li Ji's body also found? After he killed Li Ji, he had no time to deal with anything else. Looking at the current situation, this matter has been discovered. On the stage, Shang Han's voice did not stop. So after comprehensive consideration, the military plans to give him additional rewards. Now proceeding with the announcement of the Operation Night Owl evaluation. Chen Qi, Operation Night Owl evaluation, SSS level. The overall evaluation of the Wolong team, S level. Boom. When he heard that Chen Qi's personal evaluation was SSS level, the square suddenly exploded. But before they could be surprised, a bigger thunder shocked everyone present and froze them in place. The individual rating is SSS level, the team rating is S level. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.